Yeah.
And hi everyone! Hello players, you're back on the couch. You can't
Hello.
see the couch, but you are back on the couch.
You say we're back on the couch, but I'm still like just hanging in there from what I remember.
Hanging on for dear life on the couch.
Dear life, yeah.
Yeah, you're still on the arm of the couch, and
Who doesn't like to sit there?
I mean apparently
I
Chris
like
is
the throne of the couch.
I don't. If I sit down, I want to sit somewhere comfortable.
Also, let me stop the tavern.
Sitting on a
music, which I
couch with multiple
totally
people is
forgot to turn
never
off.
comfortable.
Hi. How are you doing, everyone?
Looking forward precariously to what's going to happen in session 0.
Same.
I'm actually just
I mean, a lot of
thirsty.
talking and setting things up, for sure.
Some of us have already done a little bit of rolling pre-session.
Yes.
Oh.
Oopsies.
Deciding on character backstories and whether I would have discovered certain things or not and when.
I was tempted to actually do some rolls for you guys myself, but I think it would be more fun to let you roll those things and then figuring it out. Because session 0 is session 0. This is why we're doing session 0. So yeah.
Yes. And it's kind of like a prelude, isn't it? We're going to be setting the scene for the start of session 1.
Okay. So because we had in the meantime a few more changes, mostly to Arrow and some tweaks and stuff, I will hit us off by having you all one more time going around and talking like the basics about your character, so we all know where we are before we kick it off. So let's start in the order.
When you say basics,
as in name, what class you're playing, and some basic non-spoiler descriptions, of your character.
Oh, we can just recite our shorts like we wrote for you.
Yes.
pretty much, yeah.
So, let's start with Samira. Lena.
Okay, let me just find my little short. There we go. I'm playing Samira the Barbarian, the Asima Barbarian. She is seemingly a study of contradictions, clad in fine and feminine clothing and not a hair out of place, with an enormous maul and a bloodthirsty grin at the ready. Alone for the first time in forever, she keeps her distance during her race against the clock, so she's a time bomb. Isn't that fun?
Yes. And her amazing portrait was done by User Art, an amazing Romanian artist that we graciously got the permission from to use it. You have the link in the information. So yeah, yay! Next one, Chris with Viera.
Right. Well, I will be playing Viera Ithelday. She is a wood elf ranger from the High Forest. You're not going to get an awful lot more of information out of her backstory unless you start prodding and poking. At first glance, her jet black hair tumbles down past her shoulders, and she has some very distinct facial tattoos that are clear for everyone to see. She has prominent elven ears that poke out from underneath her hair, and she's constantly surveying her surroundings as if taken in by a wild curiosity or just a steadfast alertness. Somewhere in her delicate elven features and wild locks of hair lie experience, however. It's obvious that her bright eyes take in everything around her, and she misses very little. For those who look a little closer, she wears practical black travel clothing underneath a well-worn leather jerkin molded into place. Along with it, she carries her bow with similar experience and rough hands.
She also young for an elf.
She's very young.
Not that you can tell, like the moment they turn 21, they just look like 21 until they turn 700.
Yeah, that's it. So rather than have to fight with the troubles of having to play a creature with 100 years worth of memories and experience, and essentially being an elven adult at that point, I decided to go for a very young elf. So she's somewhat naive in some ways and will enjoy investigating and exploring the world and discovering new things.
And the amazing art of your character is by
Trungbury, I think is how you
yeah, but
pronounce
like
it.
they're
Yes.
I forgot their entire name, but it's a Vietnamese artist. They're really great, and in my personal opinion, they're better than Envelope. When it comes
Also
to
has an
girls.
amazing comic. Just
Yes.
throwing that out there.
Yes.
Speaking of which, Stina, Arrow, hit it off because you had the biggest changes. Oh my god, I wanted to murder you like 20 times during the week.
Oh, it just makes for an exciting time, doesn't it? So, I am playing Stheno Flanainio, a human who hails from obvious human ancestry, and she is a pugilist. So it's a little different than your classical classes. It's very similar to a monk. It's kind of like a combination of monk and barbarian. Very much rough and tumble style of play. And she has sorry, I'm just
Consulting your notes in the background by judging by the
Yes.
click, yeah.
yeah, the screen settings on my computer are funky. She's got scar-laden skin, so she's been through some rough events, and she's got very corded muscle for having a feminine frame. And perhaps the most curious feature is her 1,000-yard stare, and makes it easy for Stheno to be described as your archetypal bruiser, kind of the soldier, if you will, that's been through some things. Even so, the innocent wonder that glimmers just beneath the surface of her harrowed gaze hints toward more than the threat of imminent violence that usually is a precursor to seeing that type of build in a person. With the flames of her past constantly licking at her heels, the search for cool reprieve is at the forefront of her mind.
I
And as
swear I
you can
gotta turn
see-
you up. Like, you keep whispering quieter and quieter.
The volume does seem to automatically go down by 15% the longer you speak.
Yes.
That is
I'm not
very
sure.
strange.
I'm not sure if that's.
No, he just starts speaking softer and softer and softer, aka becomes way quiet.
Yeah.
All right. And as you all can see in the picture, she's very tanned and has a lot of coiled hair, very poofy.
Yeah.
So,
The picture was done by Gavin Winford, a South African artist. It's amazing. We don't have a single American artist in the lineup, by the way. They're all like multinational, like either South Africa or like East Asia and stuff, which I'm really excited about, honestly. And then last but not least, Cassius and Arabel. Hit it off.
All right, I'll be playing Cassius Moreth, who's a human rogue, young, quite handsome, and so the short bio. So one might wonder why this human in fine clothing wanders around, often far from the vices he obviously likes to surround himself with. If you ask, Cassius will spin a fine tale with grand gestures and a disarming grin. Look more closely, however, and you might just catch a glimpse of the deep and unrelenting hunger in the young man's eyes. And that's it.
Awesome. And your art is actually specifically dear to me because it was done by Gary Arthur. It's actually an artwork that I've been looking at for a while because it's actually the portrait of Gale from Baldur's Gate 3. And Gary Arthur is actually an Indonesian artist, also really, really talented. Go check him out. But yeah, that's all of us. You know me. I'm the Shinny. I'm the GM, the game mommy. Hi,
That's what's up.
welcome to Faerun in 1374.
Uh-oh.
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 There's a lot of bad things happening in that year.
Yeah, lots of storms.
Lots of storms. Yeah, the storms are more like individual things because things are happening in the background that none of you know about. So, because you're not
Yeah.
priests of Bahamut and you're not priests of Tiamat, so we don't care.
Absolutely.
I am gonna kick this off with like the longest span that I have to cover because of Cassius, because Cassius has been slowly transitioning throughout like the coastlands, originating in Chesenta where he was born. So the idea of what we're gonna do is basically I have to figure out when you arrive, right? You might not be necessarily arriving on the 24th because I mean you will more or less arrive at the same time, but I have to see where you have been at what time and see if you guys potentially met each other in certain locations. Because the closer you get, the more likely it is you met, right?
Is there any likelihood we die on the way?
Oh, that would be a problem.
No.
Just real Dark Souls
I
style.
also
Like just checking.
I'm
So.
Am I
also
gonna
not
and
charging
I
you.
going to explode in the meanwhile?
I'm also not charging you for the journey. It is assumed at this point that you could have afforded it to get to Cormyr, right, to begin with.
Good. Good.
That's why I didn't go
The
overseas,
only
because
exception
fuck the pirate isles.
might be Stheno. Because of reasons, but we'll get there. So I'm gonna start with Cassius, right? So you started in Airspur. This is like where you're from
Yes.
Chesenta. That's not the capital city, but like I rely on you that you actually have read about your own city that you're from, right?
Yes. Yes.
And basically, you went from there around the coastline, and then I kind of looked at where you would have gone, right? So basically, my idea was that Cassius kind of slowly transitioned, like, you know, he went to Ref, then he stayed a while in Ref, then he went to Sapra. He didn't stay long in Sapra because Sapra is a harbor city, but it's really small. It belongs to Termish. Then basically went to the capital, which is Alagon, which is familiar to Lena's character, because, you know, originating there. And then you kind of made your way slowly on a ship, probably, to Starmantle. Stayed, you know, for a few years there, and then for a few years in Westgate, and then a few years in Teziir. And then you basically heard the rumors not that long ago, because you're living in this city, you know, at this point. So we're gonna go, and I'm gonna just give you a brief overview, but like you can then sit down and write down what cities there are. I do have for you, just a second, I'm gonna post it into the chat. The exact like mileage you should spend traveling across all the cities. Let's see. Public. There. This was your voyage, right? So we're gonna go and kind of briefly touch upon like Ref, Sapra, Alagon. Like I said, Sapra is tiny. Don't worry about it. I don't think he would have stayed there very long because it would have been really fucking boring. So we're gonna probably skip it. But let's start in Ref, shall we? So, Ref is in the Chandaf region. That's something you should know because it's like that close, like it's across the mountain. And it's one of the free cities there. And Actually, you would have to dig into it because I don't have the books on it. But it's a harbor city, like any other. Sapra is a village, so let's go over to what was it? To Alagon, because Alagon is the big first sensible with a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
Alagon. If I can actually spell. There it is. Sorry, a lot of. Okay, so Alagon, like I said, is the capital of Termish, and Lena, this is also interesting for you because this is where you're from.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an ancient city, and has it's been through lots of trials and tribulations. It had terrible fires. There was a blue dragon attack during the reign of Worm, and it managed to survive as a trade center, and is known as the throne of Termish. And there's some peculiarities in Termish, by the way, because if you have spent any amount of time in Termish, this is something you would have known. And this is the natives of Termish tend to mark on their foreheads whether they're literate or not. One mark for they can read, 2 marks they can read and write, and 3 marks they are magic users. And it's actually punishable potentially by death if you fake those marks. But this is also one of the reasons why the Termish natives, if they see strangers, kind of generally have this prejudice of them being uneducated, peasants. So yeah, this is a peculiarity about Termish in general.
When you say on their heads, do
Forehead.
you mean forehead,
Yeah,
or do you mean just on the face?
No, forehead,
Okay.
the Indian markings, but
Yeah, sure.
it's more
Just
chalk, right? They use chalk to do it usually. But anyway, it's a mostly stone-based city. There's a whole bunch of stonemasons. They made stone buildings, walls, houses, and drains. So it's not as stanky, maybe. I mean, it's a hot city, so it will be stanky, but not as stanky because it has actually something like sewers, somewhat, right? But the construction of the city created basically 1,000 hiding places, so it's amazing for thieves, right? And criminals. And the city was actually built on top of older dwarven structures. So if you really go into the deeper, older parts, you have dwarven buildings from long ago. Has a bunch of secret passages and cubby holes, and sometimes the children run into monsters in those hidey holes. And usually when a child goes missing, adventuring companies are sent to investigate. But yeah, for anything else, the districts and stuff, just look into it on your own, because you know best what your character would have been interested in. But in general, there's a strong elven presence in Alagon, so you're kind of used to being around elves for that reason as well. But they're also they're kind of comfortable living around humans. That probably also aided the whole prejudice of foreigners are dirty peasants who don't know how to read and write. Also, don't forget to hydrate and drink water. Very important. Anyway.
Yeah, sounds like a cool place.
The next part is Star Mantle. Let me open it up. So that one is already in the Dragon Coast. It's on the very south of the Sea of Fallen Stars, right? And it's a standard. It's it will not exist in in 11 years, because the spell plague will take it out, right? Just like your.
I was going to say, because I saw maps and it was ruins of
Yeah,
Starmantle, I was like, okay, so that's not the place where I
this
would have
map
went.
specifically that you're looking at, because when the year 1374 is a third edition map, so you have the settlement still there. So like, this Starmantle was destroyed in 1385. So in 11 years, the spell plague will just wipe it away. Hence why I don't have much information on it. Standard harbor city. Insert generic medieval fantasy harbor city. Ta-da! You're welcome. But yeah, it's like I wanted to let you know, because you are specific in the case, because Cassius, living in these places for a longer amount of time, would have probably kind of informed how he is as a character, right?
Mhm.
Because he would have been influenced by all those cultures. Not only that, but Lena's character is actually from that region as well, like from Termish, and you will have some things in common when you like start talking. So like, this is why I'm giving you the hint of like, hint, nudge, nudge, look into it, right?
Mhm.
And then we have Westgate is the next on the journey. I wasn't sure if this would be a city that that Cassius would enjoy or not so much, because it's like a seedy, squalid metropolis, like, you know, with a history in piracy and powerful crime syndicates and nameless vampiric crime lords, right? It's like a black market trade and corruption, you know. It's actually known as the most sordid cities in all of Faerun. You know,
Sounds like a grand old time. Amazing.
you have like scoundrels and spies like literally in every alley, right? You know, danger lurks for the unprepared around every corner. It doesn't sound like a great place to live for the
Well,
average person, right? But it also was a very open city that welcomed all travelers and citizens alike, you know, as long as they abided by the local laws, quote unquote. um, and it's also one of the oldest, richest, and most corrupt ports in the Sea of Fallen Stars. Um, it received the nickname Gateway to the West. Um, but yeah, that's basically it. You know, crime center. You would have probably picked up some tricks there over the years.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna leave Teziir, because Teziir will get more important because of you and Samira converging there. So next one up,
Ooh.
I'm gonna do Samira, because you're the longest in lengths in those locations. So if we look at the maps, like, you know, we have Termish, right? I already talked about Alagon, so I'm not gonna do this. Like, I'm gonna for whatever culture perks I couldn't find, feel free to invent weird shit, because they already have like weird stuff like this, like marking their foreheads of like, oh look, I can read and write. I'm clever. But like judging by the overall layout, specifically the profession that you have taken on at the end, you probably have been around the Pirate Isles a lot, and probably all the way to Westgate, because again, piracy harbor, right? So if you want to amend where you actually touched down first time when you found out about your situation.
I mean, we can do Westgate being the step-off place, and it's more likely to find people treating pirates around there.
Okay. Yeah, so this is what I wanted to tell you. Like, it's great criminal city place and stuff, but also because it's criminal like haven, the quality service costs money, and a lot of it, right?
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So this might have been the reason why you then transitioned over to Teziir, and like, okay, I'm gonna make it along the coast until I find a place where they can help me, right? And Teziir is where you heard of the rumor for the first time. And this is where we're gonna now jump into Teziir, actually. Let me open up my notes on that. Teziir. Because this is also when we're gonna get to the first roll for the both of you. After that. So Teziir is the largest city on the coast of the Dragonmere. Actually bigger than Suzail, which is I find impressive because Suzail, the capital of Cormyr, is huge, right? And Teziir is even bigger. It's an independent trade city, means they have a lot of information coming in and going out. And it's kind of, because it's sort of like a frontier town by most people. The growth has been kind of erratic, and very few roads run straight for any considerable distance. So it's like a maze. And there's also like a shanty town, like a huge population that just lives around the town in shacks and tents, right? And they provide many services, both legal, illegal, it's nothing new to you. Actually, none of you. You both are like feeling quite at home here. So yeah, the government is like a council of merchants. Equal, like sort of like they have like a conglomerate of men and women, like very progressive actually in that way. Like it's not like patriarchy galore as classical medieval age would go, but like the council really consists of like men and women who founded the city, and they ran the city like it was their own personal property. So they invested in it, right, financially, and they actually care, right? And these merchants hired a variety of people to administer guard and otherwise service the city. So, and they treated them like employees, dismissing them if they didn't produce results. So the city's run like a company, which is so cool on so many levels, right? It has an active militia, which is aided by a mage called Azala. You probably, for you, Cassius, right? You probably would have known a bit more. It's like Azala Fire Eyes is the full name. She is a human, a follower of Mistra, and she used to be an adventurer. And she defeated the Great Worm of Telflam before retiring in a tower in Teziir. She does like a lot of magical research, right? But she also aids the city in, militia stuff when shit happens. So you can imagine that she's actually also it totally sounds like it was one of the characters that they played originally, right?
Definitely, yeah.
But like she's really tied with the government. Like you would have known that. I don't think that Samira would have gotten that far into knowing about this year, because she's now in panic mode already, right?
Yeah.
But like the population, and this is why I said it's a fucking huge city, because like if you do the like whole medieval count of people, it's around 40,000 people that live in this place. This is a huge fucking city. And it's even worse during the summer period. It feels like up to like over 50,000. There's a lot of prospectors and miners who ply their trades in the mountains outside the city, and then, although I mean they don't get a lot of it, but they sell it in the city. There's also several churches and temples in Teziir. One is Azuf, Shantia, Helm, Torm, Timora, and Tyr. Those are like the standard ones. And that's it. That's like the generality of it. So yeah, my idea was, because I was like really sitting, because it's one of the rumor is one of those things, like the further it travels, the less likely it is somebody will hear it, unless it's like a huge thing that really makes waves, right? And I did tell you all that like the tower itself as a rumor is obscure, right? It's known enough that you can find information, especially the closer to the source you get. But the further away you get, the less likely. Like, it's not like every tavern will talk about it, right? So I had a little help from my other streamer friends, and basically we came up with a number, and the likelihood that you heard it in 2 different locations is like astronomical. So I decided that you heard it actually from the same place, but not on the same day. So you kind of missed each other by 2 days, right? Or 1 day. So this is where we arrive at the whole point of like, once you kind of heard about it, you also heard about that you would have to go to Cormyr to know more about it. Best source for that would be Suzail, which is a 9-day journey on a ship. No problem for each of you, because both of you have been on ships before. One of you more than the other. So I just wanted to know, like, would you have gone immediately, or would you have taken a few days and then gone? Like, let's start with Samira.
Well, that would have depended how long I've already been in Teziir. If I've spent a few days already and then heard the rumor, then I would have gone immediately. If I just arrived around the 2-day, 3-day mark, I would have stayed a few days more to search more options before falling along to
I would say
next location.
Roll me an investigation check, please.
Let me see. First roll.
Is this the first official roll?
Yeah, and it's the 19.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Nice.
Promising. Unless that's it and it just all goes downhill from there.
Don't jinx it. Knock on wood.
Let's see. Roll me a d6. Okay. It took you 9 days until you bumped into this information.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then I had left immediately.
Okay, so like the next morning with the next ship. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Cassius, for you lived years probably in this place. Because it's a nice combo of like all the temples plus trade plus, you know, decent underbelly, I assume. But it's not like entirely the Wild West of Westgate, right?
Yeah, so kind of like a vacation, basically.
Yeah. So you picked up
Compared
on
to
this
Westgate, at least.
probably completely by accident. It would have been like, you know, a bar conversation. It's like, oh yeah, dude, not dude, like mate. Yeah, that sounds more medieval. Mate, did you hear? They're like looking for the tower again. What tower? Well, you know, the tower in Cormyr, the wish granting tower. They're looking for it again. Apparently, it appeared again. So it would have been along the lines of that. So, what would have been your reaction, Cassius?
He would have probably just taken his sweet ass time. He's interested in also just if the city was nice enough and he had established a little bit of a ring there and doing his thing, he does at some point just probably get kicked out of an inn and just decided to drag his ass over there. Probably as soon as he. Actually, that makes sense because I'm quite low on gold, so probably as soon as his gold is on a lowish amount that he could still pay for the travel there. And then it's just, yeah, might as well.
I mean, I can tell you, I think, let me check how much the expense would be. I told you, like, I didn't look it up because I presume that your character spent it already, and whatever you have now is the leftover, right? But to like give you a specific expenses, blah 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 blah. No. Ship's passage. 1 silver piece per mile, which means sorry, it's 8 days with a ship. It's 130 silver pieces, so 13 gold.
Oh, jeez, damn.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, you
then
can
probably
always
once
roll me a persuasion check to haggle it down.
Oh, definitely. Let's try it out.
Yeah. You haggled
Is
it.
that just free passage?
No, it's not free passage, because people want to make money, right? But yeah, you got half price off. Yeah,
Nice.
you could definitely afford it. I mean, that's also including, like, eating on the ship,
Mm-hmm.
like one meal, because they're not gonna feed like families and stuff all over the place. Otherwise, it wouldn't pay off to, like, go across the sea. So, but like, back to my question, like, how would you have approached this, like, listening to this conversation? Like, would you have chimed in? Would you have just, like, listened passively?
No, Cassius probably just at first just listening in, but then as soon as he like heard it a bit more, maybe from the same group of people that is constantly talking about it, just join in, buy them some drinks to pry some more into as much as information as possible.
Yeah, in this specific place, they would have, like, talked about it for the, like, next 3-4 days, and then they would have gone to the next exciting topic, right? As it is, it's a trade town. There's, like, constantly stuff happening, and people are talking about stuff, right? And this is, like, where you would have gotten the details of, like, yeah, it's a tower that appears irregularly. Each time it appears, it kicks off a hunt in Cormyr. Not too big, because it's an obscure legend, right? And the legend goes that if you find it, wherever it is in Cormyr, because nobody knows for sure, and passes trials, it will take you to a different world where your deepest desire or wish can be fulfilled. But, like, none of the people present would have been able to tell you, like, where it would be in Cormyr, or, like, but they would have, like, well, if you don't want to know more, like, get a ship to Suzail. It's the capital. If anyone would know, they would know there.
All right, yeah. Then probably after a few days of just gathering this information, he would have negotiated his passage, get a nice fee off, and then be on his way.
Okay, then I'm gonna note that down. So, Teziir, 3 days. Okay. And Lena said immediately.
Yeah, so 10 days after arriving in Teziir, I'd be on my way.
Awesome. Noted that down in my notes as well. Teziir. 10 days. Awesome. So, you guys then arrive actually at different times in Suzail.
Miss Bay here.
Only by their difference. That's fine. So it would have been different ships, but whatever. I need you now, both of you, to roll me an investigation check to find information in Suzail itself. Because Suzail, I'm gonna pull up the information in the meantime about Suzail itself. Is, like I said, the capital. It is a huge city.
Ooh. That's because I rolled a 19 earlier.
That's fine. It's not great. It's fine. Let's do Cassius first. So you arrive. There we go. You rolled a 16 total? Yeah, 16 total. Roll me a d6.
just do.
Well, okay. It took you 10 days. Note this down.
Damn
God damn it!
it.
10 days. Okay. Lena, you roll me, please. Oh, wow. You just made it past the second threshold. Roll me a d10.
D10.
Yeah,
This
one
can
lower,
be
it would have
really
been
bad.
2d10. Oh, not bad. 11 days. Oh!
Oh,
You
Okay.
started at the same.
Just wait, what?
This is actually great because he left a day later than you, right?
Oh my god.
Fate.
Fate.
yeah, right.
Okay, so because this oh nice, this is wait. Yeah, you're leaving Suzail on the same day. This is great. Samira. Okay, so we're on 11 days for both of you. That means because like there are caravans and stuff, and this is an unknown country to you. But I'm gonna start off with like telling you more about Suzail itself. If it actually opens up the right document and not a random other document. Okay. So, like I said, it's the capital city of Cormyr. It is also the seat of power. Like the king lives there. I'm not gonna go into why it was named because you didn't spend enough time to like actually learn about the city in that way. But it's a large port city, and it's like directly, as you can see on the map, to the north on the Dragonmere. And it has a direct link to Waterdeep. If you follow like the land route, right? Upon entering, if you have any visible weapons, and this is like very standard in Suzail, they will ask you if you have a guild license, like an adventuring license. If you don't, which you don't, they would ask you to peace bond your weapon, which means that you get like a wire cord. It doesn't prevent you like pulling the weapon entirely, but it takes you like a full minute to untangle it and then pull your weapon. This is kind of to make sure that people don't just like pull weapons and stab each other, right? It's a very lawful place. So this would have been
Some kind of bullshit.
literally like you arriving there, they would have totally done that. Cormyr is also very specific because they actually have in government within the soldiers war wizards. So they're really highly magically active. One of the reasons being that they have been attacked by dragons multiple times and have fought them off. And they have been attacked by hordes of orcs and hobgoblins and all kinds of shit. And by Fae and the Red Wizards of Fae and the Zentarim are there around there, you know, doing shit as well. So like they've warded off like multiple massive threats over the years, and they're very resilient. But they also have like a really good organized like the guards in all Cormyr, but like especially in Suzail because it's the capital, is the Purple Dragons. They don't have a uniform but like you might recognize them by the tabards they wear. But it is more easier to recognize them by the rings. They wear guard rings that kind of show that they're part of the Purple Dragons. And the War Wizards have a similar ring, but a bit different to mark them as a War Wizard. And upon entry into Suzail, walking through the gate, there is always a War Wizard stationed at the gate, along with the guards that, like, you know, give you, like, okay, patting down, checking your weapons, telling you the peace bonding thing, and letting you in. And it kind of is not implied, but it's more than implied. It's kind of obvious that, like, if you pull shit in this city, it's not going to be great for you, right? So I'm just running through the notes. That's like the day-to-day. Otherwise, it's like your standard medieval city, right? It's clean. It has a big street running around the noble quarters, where like all the taverns and the shops are. It's like a boulevard almost. Like it goes like from the north west gate to the northeast gate, from where you're gonna exit, basically. Um, but as in most cities, there are taverns and places that tend a bit more to the wanderers, the travelers, the traveling merchants, and the adventurers. So it's a matter of just the right timing. So it's not like that it was difficult for you to find the places where to ask people. It was more a matter of being there at the right time to find people who actually know anything more significant than just oh yeah, I heard about the tower. Oh yeah, no, my grandfather told me about this when I was a kid. It's really cool, but I have better things to do than chasing such dreams, right? So basically, eventually, you would have got enough information that it would have made it very clear that the tower is a thing, although there's nobody who talked to you could tell you for sure that anyone ever managed to return from it. Whether they died or they went to the other world and just never came back, it's unclear. But nobody you talk to knows whether anyone ever came back. But from what they heard, it's somewhere. Have been reported to be somewhere around the north, either in the King's Forest or in the Hulak. But you would have gotten the recommendations you know what, maybe not Suzail the best location for it. Maybe you should go to Arabel, to north, and ask around there. So you basically would have gotten on the first caravan, incidentally, on the same day. Which is interesting because the caravan traveling upwards, and I'm just gonna fly to the side you are on the same caravan, because again, caravans are common, but it's not like you have that many departing each day. You have way more coming into the city than leaving, right? Because it's the capital. Either way, let me open up the note again. So the first, I'm gonna switch you over actually to the Cormyr map now, because now we're in Cormyr. Activate. So this is our starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't be weird. So we're going to go north towards Arabel. So you have a few settlements on the way there. One of them being Hilp and then Immersea. So I'm just gonna talk you through the places you would have seen, a tiny bit about it. So let me open up my book. Sorry, I also got tuna in the meantime from my child, because she takes care of me.
No.
D&D Volo's Guide to Cormyr. So the first part of the journey would have taken, and keep in mind, it's a caravan, they move slow, they move about 20 miles across 8 hours, and they would have just taken a break on the road, right? So the first part of the journey would have been Suzail to Hilp, which takes about 3 days, so you would have had 2 nights in between. So it would have been very quickly obvious that you two share a dialect. Even if Cassius has probably lost it over the years, but to somebody who's native from the area, you would have picked up a tiny bit from Home Sweet Home.
That's interesting.
So, I'm leaving the stage to you guys because it's your characters.
Okay.
What are you doing? First of all, it is at this point it's still summer, right?
Mhm.
Kind of end of summer, so it's actually really warm. It's like between 25 to 30 degrees depending on how hot it gets, like, you know, sunshine and rain still happens. But it's pretty hot, right, during the day. So you're like sweating all day profoundly. Sitting on an uncomfortable cart, especially for you, Samira, it's like sitting on an uncomfortable cart and traveling across land is like, fuck my life, right?
Oops.
So yeah, you would have probably have a very hurting butt after the first day.
Okay, so I would have taken quite a few long walks to stretch my feet, and I guess during one of those, I would have just wandered off towards Cassius, just casually standing nearby, just stretching.
Cassius would have been loudly complaining the whole way about the cart sucks, the roads are shitty, and he would have been wearing his leathers, so studded, pretty good-looking studded leather armor, although a bit worn, instead of his fine clothes, and he doesn't like sweating in leather because it stinks. So he would have also been complaining about that, and basically being kind of chatty with at least also during the road with people on the cart and trying to he's not really a mercenary, so he would have been just trying to play cards to pass the time, not really looking around so much. But yeah,
I mean, Samira is kind of used to the heat, so she wouldn't have dressed any different. She's still mostly all monochrome blacks, with a single like white braided rope around her hip where she's hanging all her peace bonded weapons.
You say all her peace bonded weapons.
Yeah,
How
it's
many
just
does she have on her
it's
person?
just two. It's a
Okay.
maul and a dagger. Yeah, but
How do you peace bond a mole?
I'm guessing that I'm wondering as well. But that's why I decided it's on a hip, and they should just kind of bound it to a rope.
The mole is attached to a strap, and you peace bond it by peace bonding it to the strap, so it actually becomes more of a nuisance to take it off. That's how the peace bond wizard staffs as well.
Was thinking the same thing.
I was just trying to picture how that was possible. So
yeah, it's just
a hassle.
all kinds of knotted
technically,
wire on her.
If you take off the strap, it's probably faster to just like unbuckle the strap and then just hit them along with the strap than de-peace bonding it, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
just rip off the strap. Come on.
Yeah,
funny thing though,
just have a quick release so that it thumps to the floor. Pick it up.
Funny
and smack
thing
them
though,
with
it's a repurposed silk robe.
Ooh.
So not gonna be having a buckle in there. But yeah, that's a good idea.
I would still say note it somewhere on your sheet while you're still in Cormyr, or like in a civilized area of Cormyr, because once you're not, nobody's there to check on you. Just saying.
Yeah.
But like while you're around people, it would take you, if you're going with the just unbuckle the belt that holds the thing. It's still, I would say it's still like an action to detach it, and then you can swing.
Yeah, just slip out of it for an action.
Yeah.
So is there like a fine if you untie the peace bond? And you just, because if you're traveling on the
Yeah, you
road,
might
I
end
mean,
up
it
in
can
jail.
be dangerous, right? Oh. Never mind that.
That's a fine.
If people are messing with the peace bond, it's assumed that you're a criminal, and therefore you will be put in jail until they figure out if you're a criminal or not.
Okay.
That's
Sounds
fine.
good. Then my peace bond is in place.
Or you can join a guild, an adventuring guild, and then get the license, and then you can run around without.
Have fun doing that then. But yeah, I guess Samira would have.
Saying that in theory, most adventuring guilds have this like clause, like if you go adventuring, you have to bring back a certain percentage of the stuff you earned. And they might ask you to help out and stuff. Some are stricter with what you have to do, some are more loose. It's like all kinds. Like you wouldn't believe how many adventuring guilds you have in the Forgotten Realms, but also in Cormyr. But I want to point it out because you technically are going for the scenario, I'm going to a different world. They probably cannot come to ask me for the gold I made in the meantime.
Yeah.
But some of them also take like entering fines, which can range depending on like, how great the guild is. Anything from, a gold to 10 gold.
So could we because we were in Suzail for a little bit. So could I have found the time to weasel my way into a adventurers guild, and especially one that doesn't take a fee up front? Would that be possible?
I'm not even gonna make you roll investigation for that. Like I said, there's so many. You would have easily found one. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I would have tried to find one that doesn't.
That you attach like visibly, that marks like which guild you belong to, and that's basically it. Yet you don't have to peace bond it.
Can I come up with a name of a guild?
You can come up with a name of the guild. You can also look up which guilds you have. So I'll leave it up to you. 2 gold, please.
Perfect. But I want to try to look for one that doesn't have an entrance fee.
No, they all have entrance fees. I'm sorry. Literally none.
then never mind. Then never mind.
2 gold to steep for you?
Yeah, I'll take the peace bond, I guess.
Same.
I'm not necessarily looking for a fight, but if I can avoid this peace bond, my 2 gold is in my current situation.
You can try to handle it
down. Yeah. Of course. So persuasion again?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's 2 gold.
Then can I still refuse?
Yeah, you can refuse. It's not mandatory. It's just you're peace bonded. Chris is sitting there.
Then
I've been there. I've done that.
Yes, I joined an adventuring group in Cormyr once in a previous campaign.
Yeah.
It didn't end pretty.
So yeah. So again, you guys are gonna spend some time with each other on this journey.
Yeah. I mean, after a few days, just hearing, I guess Cassius talks a lot. I'm guessing.
Yep.
Yeah, just hearing the little lilt of familiar accent. She'd have approached him maybe during a card game or like when stretching her legs, and just being like, "Hello, there, stranger."
Oh, hi there.
Strange to hear. Well, bit of a familiar thing. Far away from home?
Yeah, you could say that. I've traveled around a bit, but you seem to have traveled around as well. If you're all the way here from, where are you from exactly?
Well, I guess you could call Alagon home base.
Nice city. I've been there for a couple of years. It's yeah. it wasn't far from my home. I'm from Chesenta myself.
That's interesting. You've been further away than me.
Yeah, just a little bit.
What brings you here?
Just traveling around, seeing the sights. I've got kind of tired of Chesenta. These all these cities that are constantly just fighting, and Cormyr just seems like a more easygoing place, less trouble.
Yes, certainly more restricting, and I just pat my knotted wire.
Yeah. I guess it comes with the safety. I guess. I don't know. I asked them what happens when you get like overtaken by bandits, and they just said, "Well, we don't have bandits in Cormyr, so I guess that's."
That's something to see if that's the truth. I don't know of a place that doesn't have criminals.
Yeah, I was going to say, but they were really eager for this peace bond, and it's like, you don't do it, you just get in jail, and
Yes.
So, what brings you here?
Guess seeing the sights as well. Haven't been very much inwards towards, straight up land. So I guess this seemed the best, safest place to explore.
So you've traveled a lot on the seas, then?
Yes, it's my preferred way of traveling. I don't like these carts. They're just confined, much more than ships.
You don't think a ship is confined? You see the same people.
You're on the open ocean.
Yeah, but you're
I just don't want to swim.
You're stuck on this wooden thing with the same amount of people the whole time. That's
yes. You can walk a lot more. There's a downstairs and there's an upstairs.
I bet. In the cities and on the roads, you can also walk a lot. You're not too confined. There's no floating wood keeping you alive.
I guess it's just a preference then.
Yeah.
Well, what's your next pit stop? You gonna stop at Hilp or going further?
Probably going all the way towards Arabel, a little bit of the largest city. No.
Seems like we're traveling the same direction.
Yeah. I mean, that's a nice coincidence, I guess. So, you're here as a guard, or and I Cassius points towards the mall on our back, I guess.
No, nothing like that. If you're traveling alone, you better keep yourself protected, eh?
That's true. And he pets the rapier that's on his side.
Yeah, seems like you know it. Anyways, good to have at least a bit of company that won't make me homesick.
Yeah. If we want to reminisce a little, I'll be here. And he looks at the card.
Yeah, sure. When
I can hear the disgust in his voice, like.
When I'm feeling homesick, I can. Yeah, we can talk. You said you have left a while ago. Only stepped a few years, so I can catch you up on gossip.
Yeah, I'm always up for gossip. Sounds good.
Well, I'm gonna walk around a bit more as long as we have this break. I don't want to sit any longer, and we can talk later.
Yeah, sounds good. Have a nice walk.
Don't
stray too far now. Apparently there's no bandits, but...
Actually, there is bandits. Do you have guards along with the caravan?
Oh, okay. then it's just Cassius bullshitting.
Yeah. It's not like I know any better.
I talked about it with Chris. Like at all times, like no matter where you are in the Forgotten Realms, you might have a random dragon landing on the road in front of you. It's very, very unlikely, right? But it is a possibility.
Welcome to the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
Such a wonderful place.
Anyway, you would have arrived in Hilp on the third day, like the end of the third day. Hilp is it's a bustling town, right? It stands on the meeting of the Kalantar's Way and the Way of the Manticore.
Mhm.
And it's named after a long ago court jester of Cormyr, who has granted extensive farmlands at his side. And this is all you know because you literally have nothing else to do but sit on the cart and listen to the people talking about shit. All kinds of shit, right? So you would have heard a lot about Hilp, despite it actually being a boring business bent place of like, you know, just like it's not a big town, right? It's a crowd of tall and narrow, like slate shingled shops with homes above them. You know, very, you know, Diagon Alley kind of buildings, right? And it kind of keeps outgrowing its defensive walls. So like they have been moved a few times, right? And it's kind of like pulling itself along, elongating. It's like along the two major roads, like in all directions. But it's like I said, it's a boring business bent place of grasping folk trying to gouge every last, you know, copper out of customers. You know, very stingy people. But like there's not that many shops that are interesting. There's the slipper shop and Handiber's Stelk farm. The slipper shop is run by a kindly old, and I mean old, and when I say the race you will understand old, it's an elf crone. You don't see elves that are looking old. When they start looking old, that means they're about to die, right? Any moment now. So seeing an elf crone is like, holy shit, right? And she talks about Mithranor like it's built yesterday, right? But otherwise, she sells cosmetics, herbs and scents, and pomanders and medicines, and even some magical potions that you cannot afford because you're poor.
Yeah.
But she's all like you know, and also you have to be polite to her, or she's gonna kick you out. But like she's all like, you know, like grandma packed up, you know, even in these temperatures, like, you know, all warmly and in cloth slippers, and she's like, yeah, child, right? But like you can imagine, she's like ancient compared to you guys, right?
Yeah.
And then Handiber's Stelk farm, like Handiber is like gruff and dry humored, and actually has he has like the sales outlet and his farm, right, where he grows Stelk. And yeah, Stelk is, by the way, a shrub about the size of a large man's fists and looks like a cluster of tiny brown and bronze cabbage heads. And it's like an oily, bitter, skunky plant. According to the few humans who've tried it, basically the entire caravan told you not to try it. Some of them tried to talk you into trying it, just for lulz. But like there's a few dwarven families who like swear by it. Like there was actually a dwarf on the caravan like, no, this is like the best thing ever. I like it in me stews, right? Should totally try it. And he actually says it unironically, right? He digs the stuff. But it is also one of the best fish baits in the area. Like it's amazing for fishing. Like fish love that shit, right? And obviously Hilp is a fishing town, right? It actually commands high prices for that reason. So yeah, this is why there's a shop, right? And this is why some people in Hilp call Handiber the father of all farmed fish, because he also has a fish farm. So he like he feeds them and fertilizes them, and then like basically exports them all over the place. Even like, you know, exports like the fish babies for hatcheries. Like don't ask me, I don't know how fish stuff works. I have my limitations in my knowledge. But yeah, So otherwise, boring town, but it would have been your first place where you can actually take a proper bath, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
I mean, I
And
would have hung out mostly at the Crones to just chatter up, see what myths and legends she knows, so I can see if I can find any just
Because you would
clues
have
towards
arrived in
any
the
solution.
afternoon, you would have had some time to like walk around, right? But basically, the caravan is departing the next day. They're basically like
Yeah.
resting the horses, like using the opportunity of a town to like maybe repair some horseshoes and carts,
Yeah.
like wheels. But otherwise, it's the same caravan and continues onward to Arabel. So you wouldn't have had that much time, and like there's like one place that you can hang out, which is like the inn doesn't have enough capacity to house the entire caravan. So like it's business as usual outside the town. They just pitched their tents, but they like some of them went in to like take a bath, some of them didn't. But here in the inn, in the tavern, you would have picked up on the conversation of like the bartender. Basically, like the caravan leader would have sat at the bar and go like, hey, what's new? And then the bartender would have, like, the barkeep would have been or actually not the barkeep, the tavern owner. There's not that many people here. Would have been like, and like gone through the various stuff, but like the thing that would have really caught your ears, both of you, would have been like looking for the tower again. I heard somebody popped up in Arabel who knows where it is. So they talk about this for like, and it's like, it seems like the last time it popped up, it was like a good 2-3 decades ago, right? Or like that it popped up in any way where like people had actually proper directions. So this is actually like, in this little town, exciting news. But the way they talk about it is like, there's like my dad or like my grandpa told me, or my aunt, right? Because rumors.
Hearsay.
Is like, yeah, like there've been people before who claim to have the map, and like I would have to yet meet a person who like can really show proof of that, right? But this is what you pick up, that there's somebody in Arabel who has popped up apparently who claims to have a map to the tower.
Okay, that's good to know. And bathing is definitely, I guess.
So, anything else you want to do in Hilp before we continue?
Try to get a bed. Is it completely full?
Roll me a persuasion. Maybe you'll get a room.
Go for it.
Do you even have money to pay for it?
Maybe.
Does now.
The expensive, that means how expensive the room is. That's,
No, you're not getting the room. They have better playing card clients than you.
Then I'll probably just drink. I'll actually.
But they charge you a silver for a bath.
Yeah, okay.
How much?
I will.
A silver.
Silver. Oh yeah, that's fine.
I'll take a bath. For sure. And I guess spend the night just chatting up whoever's in the tavern at the moment. Just keeping my ears open.
It's mostly the caravan crowd with some other smaller.
Yeah.
Like, end of the shift, some workers, farmers. It's like, it's a farming country, most of it. So like farmers go to sleep when like the sun sets after dinner, and then they get up really fucking early.
Still, alcohol loosens the tongue, so if anyone got something new, they're gonna talk here. Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, you continue on your next track, which actually doesn't take that long. It takes 1 day, 21 miles. So basically, you depart in the morning after breakfast, and you actually arrive, like, again, in the afternoon, like around 4 or 5 p.m. in Immersea. Let me again pull up my notes, because Oh my god, you're traveling for a lot of locations in a short amount of time. Immersea is a bit more interesting. It's a town of not many people. It's a few hundred. You don't know the exact numbers. The people who were talking to you guess it's around maybe 500, maybe 700. Nobody can agree on that. And it stands at the westernmost tip of the Weimar border. At what is generally known as the Mist Fisher Bay. The bay had many names over the years, most of them related to the spectacular sunrises and sunsets visible over the water from the town. So you would have like a really nice sunset, in that evening. And another popular name is Immer Bay because the Immer stream joins the vibrant water there. Like if you see on the map the river, that's the Immer stream. Actually doesn't show, but yeah, there is a stream. It joins it there. Trust me. And Immersea is a way stop on the Kalantar's way that you're traveling along, right? Where livestock and beasts of burden can be easily watered. So, like, this is one of the reasons, again, the caravan stops here. And the Starwater Road, Immer Trail, and Blister Trail all link up with that, like, paved way here, right? So it's like, has, like, cobblestones. So it's a bit easier to travel, because this is the main trading, south to north in Cormyr. And then links up to, like, even more bigger trading routes that go further north into the Cormyr and the Dalelands. The local fleet of mist fishers, they go like every day and they catch freshwater eels, silverfin, trout, crabs, greenbacks, and other fish from the from the lake. And it's weird because it's one of the rare towns in Cormyr where the citizens are openly unhappy with their government, specifically the government in Immersea, right? They're not unhappy with King Azun, or like actually his descendant now, but with the lazy, overly cautious local lord, Samtavan Sudakar. He's a Suzail investor and landlord, and he spends his days fishing and reading old books in his castle, where he has his own apartments. And his work, he just leaves to like his herald's Geldrun. That's the name of the herald. And it's like, and people basically describe him as the most wary man they have ever seen in their life. He's just, he's like Marvin the robot from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right? He just can't be arsed. He just hates his life, right? But like his inattention, like Samtavan, like the Lord's inattention, kind of made it sort of like a free and easy trade town in recent years. And actually, you will notice that weapons are worn more openly by some, and like you will also notice that some of the weapons are not peace bonded, despite people not wearing visible pins, because the like purple dragons do patrol. They don't care that much because they're not being held to it, so it's like more of the lax-ish towns, right? But yeah, the visitors are generally like told to like respect anyone who looks arrogant and is richly dressed or clad in like livery, because those people are probably associated with one of the three powerful old families in Immersea, right? So yeah, that's about it. But the other thing that you would pick up is that that night in the inn, because you're getting closer to Arabel at this point, right? Actually, let me. No. They even have a temple, by the way, the House of the Lady. I'm just scrolling down to the inns. Cheap. No, you wouldn't be. Oh yeah, they have a rooming house. It's cheap. It's called the House of Nets.
What's cheap?
It's. Let me pull it up. What did you take me for? A GM?
Sorry, I got a
Who
penny
has
pinch
all
over
the-
here.
It is. I would say 5 silver.
For a real bed?
Real bad, real bath.
Oh yeah.
And breakfast.
Oh hell yeah. Count me in.
Okay, I can do this. Just pull the third of my silver out of me.
So it's like several of them, but they're like at the same standard level, right? You have the House of Nets, Maila's rooming house, and Nula's rooming house. They tend to offer like stuff like not really. They also offer like cheaper prices if you like stay 3 nights, right, and then pay for free. They are very much alike. All 3 of them have nothing to either recommend them or cause you like any warning. They just okay. They're all large converted houses. And honestly, the best known would be Maila's, and then Nula's, and then House of Net. So like basically the Karen would have. It's just a rooming house. You have, you get to sleep there, you get to bathe, you get a breakfast, not too fancy, because they're not an inn or a tavern. And then you go off on your way. Like, that's it. But if you would have like spent a night like in the evening, you would have gone to one of the taverns, because the rooming house, there's no place to like, except for like the breakfast part, where you they take the stuff to your room or the rooms, depending on what you got, like, because it's more common that you have like big shared rooms with like bunk beds than like individual rooms with, it's actually really expensive. But they would have taken the food into the room. So if you want to like listen to things, you would have gone to a tavern in the evening. So at this point, did you go to a tavern in the evening?
Yeah.
So here again, more so, somebody picks up again the conversation about there's somebody, most definitely, who has been apparently going around in a circle, looking to hire adventurers to go to find a tower. And as far as the innkeeper, like the tavern keeper, knows, he doesn't seem to offer very much. And again, like with the doubt that it's actually a real map, because many have like popped up over the decades claiming they know where it is, right? But he's apparently like moving like on the ring of like Arabel, Yeoman Bridge, Sunset Hill, Hill March, Sling Dyke, and then down, in that circle, basically. Going like along the Sword River, then the Imma Trail, and then, up to the Dragon Trail, and then down to the like very end of the Moonsea ride and back into Arabel, like on that circle. That's what you hear. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think Samir would have done much this night, since it's a pretty small town.
It is a pretty small town.
Yeah. Maybe she would have taken the quiet to have that chat with Cassius about, back home. Reminisce a bit.
I do have a question, however.
Yes?
Have you been in the tavern at the same time, you two?
That's a good question.
Especially to the previous time as well.
Probably for the previous time, but for if they were told about the sunset, Cassius would have probably just bought a few drinks and go watch the sunset instead. And just
okay.
sit at the water.
Okay, then we wouldn't have been there at the same time. she would have stayed inside most of the time.
So yeah, the next journey step is 3 days to Arabel.
Oh, cool.
Now that the caravan leader has now picked up from 2 different taverns about the tower, it's kind of like it's added to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
What you doing with that? Asking about it?
Well, kind of, but not too obviously directly. I think Samir would have spent a lot of the travel already just, asking about local rumors and just basically, quote unquote, getting to know the country. And I think that would have been included as soon as it entered the conversation.
Cassius?
Oh, Cassius would have been just straight up talking about everything.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he talks a lot.
So just
Yep.
yeah, just blabbing as well. Not on the first morning because probably this is probably also the case in Hilp. He would have arrived as late as possible as the caravan just left and just hopped in the cart, and then the first part of the morning just have a hangover.
Good to know.
And then just basically that's the few times he actually shuts up, and then he would have just been chatting and running his mouth. But I mean, also listening to people, and you can see he's just talking with some of the guards, with some of the other people, with the card playing. You can see if you keep an eye on it, he specifically goes to separate groups of people. He doesn't only stick with one group, but just chats with them, plays cards with them, drinks with them during the travel itself. So just kind of integrating himself. So he would have definitely, if this was part of the conversation, he would have just been talking about this tower and how they would really, just doesn't kill you, because he's kind of worried about that. Because he says, well, it transports you to a different world. Being dead is also technically a different world. So he's just making jokes about that as well. And yeah. So yeah, and he's not real. Well, he's not only talking about it, but he's definitely not specifically hiding it or going out about it in a roundabout way.
Well, 3 more boring days on the road then. Look at them making it way fucking harder for themselves. Anyway, you arrive in Arabel. Let me pull up, because Arabel is actually, I like it more than Suzail as a city. It's the frontier city of Cormyr. It used to be an independent hold, and much later it was briefly the capital of then still nameless realm ruled by Gondegal, the usurper king. It has always been a bustling way stop on the overland caravan route linking the Moonsea metal lines to the ports of Cormyr and the Sword Coast lands beyond. It's also been a fortress against the perils of the nearby Stonelets. Also, I totally forgot to mention and remind you all one more time, do not hurt cats. That's law in Cormyr.
Mm-hmm.
Do not kill them. You might get executed for it. And the reason for that being that there was a plague a long time ago in Cormyr that was spread by rats, and the cats ate them all and saved the country. And this is why cats are not to be hurt or killed. Anyway.
Definitely buying a cat.
Yeah. Today's Arabel is a booming, prosperous center of growth. Like both newcomers to the realm and young Cormyrians are settling in the lands all around it, making Arabel as like it's like the only practical place where you can hire services, even richer and busier. It's a city of opportunity. But it's still kind of lacking many of the sophistications of Suzail. but they still have like people who are hungry for that, right? They want services, they want goods, they want luxury, especially the nobles, right? It's often referred to as the caravan city or the overland city of Cormyr. And it's dominated by land transport for the obvious reasons of it, like it's the fucking middle of the country, right? It's a city of trading costers, warehouses, caravan companies, wagon makers, horse and bullock traders, merchant investors, and all of them very capable, governed. It's a clean, mostly safe city. I mean, you have in all the cities you usually have the seedy places and seedy taverns, right? But it's mostly fine. It's big. It has about 16,000 people living in it, mostly humans. A lot of the surroundings are farmers, obviously. Has a large garrison, but they're overall like tolerant folk. Like the only people who are like treated hostile on site would be orcs and half orcs. Again, for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find like all kinds of races, except for like goblinkin within the walls. Although like only half elves are like commonly seen. You will see the odd dwarf and elf, maybe, but half elves are actually more common. But it's predominantly human, as most towns that are not exceptional in the Forgotten Realms. But yeah, it has a wall and towers, like a lot of these places. So yeah, let's see if there's anything else interesting I can tell you. And it's not very visually striking. The surrounding area is more dusty, not as clean. It's like dusty aromatic paddocks and stockyards, and and then you have the plain forbidding walls, and it kind of like makes it kind of look like from the outside when you arrive like a giant castle, right? And then the walls encircle like a crowded array of small shops with rooms above where people live, and these shops are like super pressed together along the streets, and they're busy day and night, like constantly. And the only actually striking, like visually striking buildings cluster near the middle of the north wall. One of the largest one is the citadel itself, and the noble houses. I'm just skipping through stuff you wouldn't actually pay attention to. Okay, that's it. So, what are you doing here?
Okay, I guess Samira would go to very popular places like marketplaces and taverns and stuff. Just spend some time there, keeping the tower thing in the back of her mind, just keeping an ear out, but not necessarily a focus right now. She's more looking around for other options as well of solutions and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she's mostly mingling.
Cassius?
Cassius is going to look for the specific person that they were talking about.
Okay.
That supposedly is walking around, so he's going to inns and asking if they have seen this person, and if they know if they're in Arabel, if they're on the way.
So, Cassius, roll me an investigation with advantage, and Lena, just a plain investigation check.
Damn.
That's the fate has brought you together again, because again, of all the places,
Damn.
there are places that are more likely, and because this person has been described to specifically look for adventurers, you kind of gravitated probably more towards the parts where like those people hang around. And basically, I'm gonna roll this.
Hello there, stranger. I don't know you at all.
Yeah, it took you a total about 8 days, and over the 8 days, you kept bumping into each other.
Yeah. Just always like, hello, stranger, huh?
Yeah,
This is
basically this.
Following me.
Well, basically this where you say, "Oh, hi, I know you. Okay, bye," and then you say bye and you walk in the
Yeah.
same direction. This is awkward.
Yeah, but like because of how Cassius is looking for this thing, Samira, you would have picked up eventually at some point in these 8 days that he's actively asking about the tower, right?
Yeah, I guess after bumping him in every so often, even more of the days, and then finding that out, she'd actively try to bump into him going on towards the latter days. So basically seeing if he's got better leads, just following around. Just, seeing you again here. Isn't that a coincidence?
Well, it seems this town is not so, or the city is not so large as I thought. Seeing those same people around.
Yes, always familiar faces, it seems.
I mean, I do have quite a distinctive face, and he kind of brushes his hair back.
Of course. That you do. So, what are you going for the next few days? Are you staying in town?
Probably. I've just been looking for.
Hmm?
I'm just looking for this person that was supposedly knows more about one.
The tower?
A tower.
I've heard you
yeah.
ask around about it.
Mhm.
You're not quiet about it. And as often as I see you around, I heard about it.
I mean,
Samira, how eager are you in this, by the way?
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
How eager are you about this conversation? Because how eager does she? If you're trying to look smooth, but you're actually inwardly really keen on finding out why the fuck he's looking for it, roll me a deception.
Well, she's not really eager about it, she's just amused, I guess. But
okay, amused. Fair enough. I do have to check.
What
right?
the fuck is going on here with the coincidences? Like similar accents, similar places. What is going on here? She's just very amused by this.
what about you? What are you looking for?
Well, turns out we have a lot more in common than I thought.
Really now?
Actually about the same things.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's quite
Strange,
a
isn't it?
coincidence.
Yes.
I mean, the gods work in mysterious ways.
Ugh. That they do.
So, actually, I'm not sure if I introduced myself yet. And he puts out his hand and says, "I'm Cassius."
Hello, Cassius. Nice to meet you. My name is Samira. How many times have we bumped into each other over many days of travel, and we haven't introduced each other? This is more seeming like meddling strings of fate. I don't like this. Nothing against you, of course.
Strings of fate? Possibly. Or just happy accidents, maybe.
You could call them that. So
you're looking for this tower, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you possibly know? Did you already pick something up on where it might be, or how we're supposed to get there, what it actually does, because apparently people don't return, and this does sound quite discomforting.
Yes, I've heard something about transporting into another world, but I don't think I've heard very much that you haven't. What did you hear about it?
I've heard that there's a person traveling around this city and kind of the northeast, traveling around in a circle looking for people. So I figured either they're here, you can find them, or, well, here's the thing. Or I was looking to travel on the same path, the same paths to see if we just bump into this person, or if I just stay here, they might come here instead.
Well, that's a couple good ideas, I think. I was thinking more of the route of staying here, since they seem to go in a circle, and passing by each other would be not really that funny, in my opinion. Have you heard any tell of where he would be?
Well, I was actually just going towards this one place. Apparently, a couple of adventurers go there, so they might know more specifics, or this person might be there looking for adventures. If they're looking for someone to help them, this might be the best place where they would be found. So I was just headed in that direction. So.
Well, you thinking 2 more eyes will help?
Sure, of course.
Let's lead away.
All right.
And this is where I'm going to call a 10-minute break for everyone.
Yay!
Nice halfway mark, because then we're gonna go to Viera and Stheno. Because again, you all are converging in the same spot, so I want to see if they maybe bump into you as well, right? Well, because they're looking for the same thing. So let's call a 10-minute break. Grab drink, snacks, go to the bathroom, whatever. We'll be right back. I'm gonna leave you the music.
Yes.
I mean, I'm still on the. I have a wireless headset. It's not like I'm gonna like, oh yeah, I'm going away. No, I'm still carrying you around with me. 10-minute break, every.
Do her up.
Okay. So we stopped at Samira and Cassius. Basically, let's look together. So the next one I'm gonna take, and sorry, Arrow, I'm gonna do you last because you have some certain complications there that I want to like pay attention to. So I'm gonna start with Chris because Chris is pretty much straightforward. Chris.
I'm looking forward to watching this unfold. Actually.
Yeah, because this is such a long route. Jesus fucking Christ, we gotta go back to the big map.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
I basically picked the point as far away as possible to start.
Yeah. So
couldn't you just been in the King's Forest or something?
If this is Cormyr, right? You see the pink guys, yeah? If this is Cormyr, he started here.
Ooh.
Which is in a straight line.
I mean, it's not that far away.
In a straight line, it would be, 770 miles.
I mean, I could just go through the Anarok Desert. What could possibly go wrong?
No, you didn't go through the Anarok Desert. So basically, I'm skipping over the whole thing of you getting to Daggerford in the first place.
Sure.
Daggerford.
Yep.
Okay, there, Daggerford. There we go. So, let me arrange the map so I have most of this route on it. Awesome. So, just closing down the notes I don't need. Viera. We're starting with Daggerford.
Yes.
And the tradeway, because this is actually that road that you're gonna travel on from Daggerford down to Subar and then Triel. That's actually all on the same trading route, which is called Tradeway. The Tradeway is a long, well-traveled trade road along the west coast of Faerun. And like I said, it actually it starts all the way to the south in Kalimport, in Kalimshan, right?
Yes, it does.
And then travels along the coastline. Well, I don't need to tell you then if you know everything. Shut up. And travels along the coastline all the way to the north to Waterdeep. So it's a really important travel road. Somebody's honking outside. Go die in a fire.
It's not me.
No, not you.
Oof, harsh.
Yeah.
What if it's a wedding? What are you gonna do then?
And it's like, did honking ever help anyone ever? In this kind of situation, we're like, oh yeah, will the line of 15 cars drive any faster because you're honking like a madman? No, it won't.
Maybe.
Yes.
You know,
Yes. It's
Yeah.
the will.
Yes.
Just willing it makes it happen.
Pure intimidation.
So anyway, Daggerford. Daggerford is amazing because Daggerford is like the wannabe Waterdeep.
Yeah.
Like, they're not Waterdeep, but they really, really wanna be the Waterdeep, right? So it's like it's a small, and therefore like it's a consequential town. It's located in a Delenbier Vale, within the Greater Sword Coast. And it's primarily a farming community, and by some people considered basically a stopover town. Like I said, the locals have great ambitions to grow and be seen as the alternative to Waterdeep, right? And so, despite the modest size and somewhat inflated sense of importance, it's okay, right? It's a resilient town because it's something like of a relic from the old kingdom of Delenbier. Like too stubborn to fall even when a series of wars, crusades, and other conflicts threatened the entirety of the Sword Coast. Just too stubborn to like roll over and die, right?
Yeah.
But what is far more interesting to you is the Delenbier River, and which is also called the River Shining, because it is full of a type of trout called the Zorb. And the Zorb is this like really huge fish. Actually, it's like the average weight, like the normal weight of it is 50 pounds, but it can actually grow up to be the size of a human.
Sounds big.
Yeah, it's brown in color. It looks like a mini whale. It has like a head, like a whale, right? And like I said, it's a type of trout. And it's white flesh, and it's very tasty, and it's a favorite delicacy in the more opulent taverns of Waterdeep. And everyone in Daggerford will tell you that they have way better recipes for Zorb than Waterdeep has. So yeah, that might have been a bit more interesting to you, like locally, right, as the ranger.
Yeah.
But that's basically it. One human town like the other.
Is it safe to say that I probably would have served one to myself after hearing about it, just to see what all the fuss was about?
It's super tasty. It's white fish flesh, right? It's like, you know, sumptuous and rich in flavor, but like it's not like one of those like fishy. But it's like really good fish.
Yeah.
I'm
picturing giant cod, basically.
Yeah, but like basically, wait. This, if you Google here, it's spelled. I'm gonna type it.
S-Z-O-R-B?
Yes. If you Google it, you actually have even sometimes pictures with like dishes. Yeah. It's because you can cut like proper fish steak out of them. They're big enough for that, right? I also fucking love how derpy they look. They look so derpy. Because they look like mini whales. They don't look like freshwater fish, right?
Yeah.
Then the next place, by next I mean you would have traveled 412 miles to Subar, 21 days. The caravan, basically, the people were talking so much that you got sick of it, right?
Yeah.
Because there's not much to do on a caravan. So they
I
talk
would,
a lot.
caravan-wise, I would probably have avoided staying near the caravan. I would have been ranging around it, kind of 40 to 50 feet away at all times, but never more than that.
Mhm.
So I probably picked up bits of conversation here and there, but my interests would have been more on focusing on the terrain we're going through, the woods literally on the edges of the roads, if there were any. Having a look at the kinds of trees, just looking at how, as I travel further and further south, how things are changing.
Yeah.
So I know that kind of as you head down the tradeway, you'd be coming across the high moor where terrain would drastically change.
Yeah.
From the misty forest to the high moor, and I'd be paying attention to that, like interested, having a look at the different insects and stuff like that. And just kind of paying a lot more, like 95% attention to my surroundings,
Yeah.
5% to the caravan.
This is luckily what I assumed when I wrote when I wrote up all the notes for the stuff, and I specifically went into more detail for like researching for you and Aero's character, because the other two have spent years in their cities. Like, guys, no offense, it would have taken me weeks to write up all the notes for your characters, and you have access to the wiki. just look it up. But specifically for Stheno and for Viera, you didn't spend long enough in these places to actually know properly. So what I'm telling you right now is what you know in character, right? So what you will have found out even before you arrived in Subar is that it's a small village on the tradeway, that it is often used as a way station for traders traveling along the road, and that the population highly varies, shrinking to an armed camp in winter, and then like with decline of caravan traffic, and then the settlement has basically no formal government, which makes it a lawless culture full of brigands and ruffians. And you would have stayed there long enough probably to find another caravan, which is not very difficult because again it's a highly trafficked road, right? Especially during the summer season, because you're traveling in the summer. The next part is Triel, which would have been 53 miles, and it would have taken you 3 days. It's still on the tradeway. It's a small village in the Fields of the Dead, located at the intersection of the tradeway and the Dusk Road, which the Dusk Road goes to the north, so you wouldn't have gone there, right?
Yeah.
It has a log and boulder stockade, and they lock their gates at night, so the caravan would have like hustled to get into the city before nightfall.
Yeah.
On the third day, because most travelers are flat out unwelcome after dark. They don't open their gates. It has a few farms in the area, but otherwise it needs to import everything it needs, especially food. And much of the room behind the stockade is used to store grain and dry vegetables for the winter months when merchant visits are few and far between. So basically, this is one example of like how you shouldn't live. Period, in your opinion, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been a great place for you to stay. You know, this is basically shows you what's wrong with the world, right? And then the next part of the road, I looked into the options, and Scornabel would have been a good option, but considering what we talked about, like which way you would have gone, I decided for Elturel. Makes more sense.
Yep.
And it's a city-state. It's on the river Chiontar. It's in the Western Heartlands is the area what it's called. And it's a center for agriculture and trade in the region. It is also renowned for its elite mounted defenders, the Hell Riders, which helped Elturel establish and maintain civilization in these harsh lands. with the focus being on maintaining Elturel as the most efficient, secure, and well-policed city in the region. And it's really nice in that way, right? It's very safe. It's clean as much as it can be. But also interesting to you, because you wouldn't have heard this even with, like, you know, along the trade route. The people in Elturel predominantly speak the Forasta language, which is Old Common, and you've never heard that before.
Okay.
And if you would have investigated, because this is like easy to pick up, right? As knowledge in this city specifically, but Forasta is the old trade language of Faerun.
Okay, I definitely would have investigated that.
Yeah.
I'd have been curious about that being a sudden shift in language.
Yeah, you would have recognized some words, but in like weird shapes. And it's basically because Common is actually a modern version of for us. So it's like
Derivative,
the old.
yeah.
Yeah, it's basically like the olden days English and modern English. That's like the comparison.
Yeah.
So like you would understand some of it, but you know, it would have been like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
They do speak Common, right, as well, like the modern version, because, you know, trade, so they have to. But their preferred language is the Old Common. It's Forasta. I'll type you in chat what it's actually spelled. There. And the guy ruling over the city, the leader, he was actually a former leader of the Hell Riders. And I'm telling you Hell Riders because it's a very specific name for a guard that would like stick in your mind. Like, Hell Riders, what the fuck, right? He used to be a paladin of Helm. And is now the ruler of Elturel. And he decreed that inns and taverns cannot operate under the same roof. Nor can inns serve drinks. So in Elturel, these are two completely distinctly different businesses.
So, if an inn can't serve drinks, is it only beds?
It's bed and food, right? But
so
and tavern, no drinks, no alcoholic drinks, right?
Okay, so water's fine.
Yeah, water's fine. But if you wanted to drink booze, you have to go to a tavern, and it's separate. Which makes the inns really fucking safe, actually, because you don't have any drunk people there.
Yeah, it does. It makes them relatively quiet places. Is it worth pointing out that what sort of size is Elturel? Like, is it a walled city?
It is walled because the region is not very safe. The size is, well, I mean, in summer, it goes up to like 33,000.
Okay.
It's around 22,000, but in summer it goes up.
Too many people for me.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that I've traveled west to reach Elturel, presumably, would I have any kind of indication of how dangerous it is outside the city's walls? AKA, would I actively not camp outside the city?
You wouldn't camp outside the city, but you have like nice places basically around the dock area. It is noisier because there's more people there. They have cheaper. Some like cheaper, but actually because of how the city is governed, most inns and taverns are actually good quality.
Okay. I'd still have gone for one of the cheaper areas though.
Yeah. That would be the docks. And it's like it's not like cheaper in the sense of like dirty and shitty. It's just simple, right?
Yeah. So I'm presuming that it's still summertime, very much so for me at this point.
Yes.
Because I still have a fair way to travel.
Yeah, it's still summertime.
Okay.
You're reaching the end of summer now. Sort of.
Yeah. Would elves have had, like, would I have had strange looks, or kind of not even so much strange looks? Would I have drawn attention being an elf in Elturel?
It's a trade town, so they've seen all sorts, but you draw as much attention as a dwarf would, basically. Maybe a tiny bit more. Not
So
like
fair
negative,
amount.
but not in a negative way. Like you turn
Even
heads.
just curiosity.
It's a curious looks and glances, but nothing like, oh look, point finger, it's an elf. It's like just like, you know, people look at you. Most people don't even look at you because they would have to actually start looking at you to begin with to notice your ears, right? So like if somebody actually properly looks at you long enough to notice the ears and beneath, oh, what a pretty girl you are, yeah, they would have noticed it and maybe stared a bit longer. But you know, maybe a whistle here and there, a cat call, you know, you've probably experienced it so far.
I'm trying to figure out if it would have affected me enough to purchase like a cloak, to like a summer
in this
cloak.
heat.
A summer cloak
maybe.
is why I said.
No, it wouldn't. It's not
very
that,
light lined linen cloak or something like that. Okay, that's fine then. Because I've got winter clothing and winter
let me
cloaks
put it this
and
way.
stuff. So.
What's your charisma?
10.
10. No. The occasional cat call, which
keep,
actually has
keep
more...
in mind that's charisma, not comeliness. So
yeah, I know, but it's kind of rolled together in the 5e. It's also how you bear yourself, right? On top of how the way you look. It's as a pretty girl, you would have gotten catcalled, but that's mostly because you're a pretty girl and not so much because you're an elf. So, I mean, you would stand out more with a cloak in the summer heat than without it.
Yeah, okay. That's fine.
Especially in a lawful town like this. People covering their faces look shady.
Yep.
But yeah, that's
depart
Elturel
as quickly
for you.
as possible.
Yeah. The next journey is from Elturel to Berdusk, which is 11 days.
Yikes.
Berdusk is known as the Jewel of the Vale, and it's set on both the Uldon Trail and the River Kiontar in the Sunset Vale. And it would be interesting to you, maybe. I don't think, because it long before, and actually, yes, you would have found out about it because the caravan journey was long enough. This is why I wrote it down. I remember. The caravan journey was long enough that eventually somebody would have told you flat out because you are an elf. But long before Berdusk was founded, there were two other settlements that stood in its place. And the first of those two, like the second one was a human fishing village, so not really interesting to you, but the first one was an elven moot hall.
Okay.
The person can't tell you more than that. They don't know. They don't know what happened to it. It's just, it was there and then it wasn't. But the city was named after a local human warrior named Berdusk Orcslayer, who was driving out the orcs from the Sunset Vale, and then made it safe enough to establish settlements in the area. And this is then what founded the today's Berdusk. So people in Berdusk don't like orcs. For obvious reasons.
Yes. In that case, we share that in common.
Yeah.
Okay. Walled or not walled? Walled.
Unless I tell you otherwise, they're all walled.
Yeah. Okay. I probably would have lingered a day or two here just to see if I could find out any more information about the Elven Moot Hall. Kind of probably approaching something like a town hall to see if they knew anything about it?
No, that's the thing. It was there. It went away. Then there was a fishing village that was established completely independent. Then that went away, and then then the orcs were here in the meantime, and then Bear Dusk liberated the valley from the orcs, and then they established the Bear Dusk now.
city proper.
So they're like, it's not even like it grew into the settlement. They're completely disconnected from each other.
Yeah, it's almost like they were replaced one by the other.
Yeah.
Over time.
Yeah.
Okay. In which case,
even this person knowing even this much is already obscure information, right?
Yeah, I would probably have sought, if there are any kind of outlying farmsteads or anything like that, probably sought to stay on the outskirts of the town rather than inside the town.
You have fishing, because at the river, right? You have fishing villages that are small, or fishing huts.
Yeah, probably would have paid someone local just for a quiet place where I could rest for the night
This
before
explains why
heading
you don't
on.
have any more money.
And then would have carried on. Kind of judging by the routes, I'm guessing I would have a good idea of where I'm heading, because I'd be asking for the directions as I went.
Yeah, I mean, you have caravans, right?
So rather than go the trail...
No, I assume that you probably took a ship upriver to Arabel.
I was going to say I'd probably take a boat or a ship part way and walk some of it as well.
It's a keel boat, a rowed boat upriver, because the river actually goes from the mountains
coast?
To the Sword Coast. Yeah. So you would have been going upriver. So
I probably would have walked for a lot of it.
No, you have boats. You have boats all the time.
I'm used to ranging a lot though, so I would have ranged a lot to have a look at the wildlife and stuff on the way.
It's 95 miles.
3 days.
With potential danger, and there's no caravan here going along the coast, right? You either take the boat or you go around.
Yeah.
There's also like the occasional orc horde still, and that kind of stuff, right? It's not, again, it's Forgotten Realms. Nothing is really safe unless you're in company, right?
Yeah. Sure.
But anyway, you would have made it to Erebor. I'm not gonna make you roll because we already agreed that you arrived safely. So, whether you were just that lucky, right? If you really went along the river.
Or just that perceptive, I dodged them all.
Yeah. But anyway, you arrive in Erebor. Erebor, I have no idea how to pronounce this. Erebor?
I'll give you a hint. It's Erebor.
Erebor.
It's something like that. Yeah.
Awesome, great.
I've heard it pronounced once, but it was a very long time ago.
Well,
and I think it's Erebor.
You will fucking hate it in character.
I know. It's a huge fucking town.
Yeah, but it's also called the City of Thousand Spires, and they're basically, it's a large city, and the city stands on a sprawling ridge above the north fork of the river, right, Kionvar, and it carries the caravan trade on the Dusk Road over the rapids and rough water of the upper Kiontar River, and then links it up with the Traders Road. And the city itself is split into 3 sections. You have at the bottom of the ridge, on the shores of the river, that section. You have the old city built on the ridge. Basically, it's like in splinters, but it doesn't have a lot of space, so they started like building upwards, right? So you have many story towers that rise from all over the city. This is why it's called like a city of the City of 1,000 Spires. And then like some of them even like joined by bridges. And the city streets are narrow and winding and crowded and covered in shadows and stinky, and you would have fucking hated it, yeah.
If at all possible, drop me on the east coast of the river.
Well, the next stop would
And-
be Easting.
Yeah, I would probably have skipped Arabel completely if I
Yeah.
could avoid it.
Yeah. Easting is great. You know why it's called Easting?
To east of Arabel?
Yes. It's a small town. Lying east of Erebor, from whence it got its name, right?
Mhm.
It is home to the great sage Rolfhaven, who's an
Mhm.
expert botanist. You wouldn't have met him
Okay.
because he's usually out there somewhere gathering herbs.
Mhm.
But it's also home to several horse breeders who often trade with communities of the Sword Coast. So basically, they take the horses all the way to the Sword Coast, right?
Yeah.
But it also has a very large non-human population. So this would be the first place since you left home where basically nobody looked at you, not even twice.
Yeah. How comfortable I would feel with that would depend on what the non-human population is.
Predominantly dwarven, but you also do have
Skip.
half elves and elves. Skip.
Skip.
It's actually
not a fan of dwarves.
it's actually a
at all.
favorite meeting place for dwarves.
Yeah, doubly skip.
This is why I have like 3 lines of text written for Easting. Thank you very much. I am a
Yeah.
clever GM once in a while. Pat on my shoulder.
Yep. Yeah, I would have grabbed as much as the directions I needed to head before continuing on.
Yeah.
Preferably with a
Prosker.
caravan who wasn't
Yeah.
stopping there. So.
The next stop would be Prosker, right?
Yep.
So it's the city just outside of Cormyr. It's not in Cormyrian territory. For very obvious reasons, it's notorious for its open thieves guilds. It's interesting. So hear me out. And I think you would have maybe found it interesting as a character. So it's open in public thieves guilds. It's led by a merchant council that's unimaginatively called Prosker Council. And it consists of people who all used to be Thieves Guild members. And
used to be.
Yeah. And these people, although good and honest, allow illicit substances to be traded within the city in return for kickbacks, right? However, despite that thieves and swindlers are despite them having that past, thieves and swindlers, because of that, have a very hard time in Prosker, as the Prosker Council are all very familiar with their methods. So authorities have an actually easier time apprehending those
One
people.
of the downsides to being run by ex-thieves guilds.
Yeah, they know exactly what you're up to, right? But the other interesting thing that you would have bumped into Prosker is the city also lent its name to Ruden. It's called the red turnip of Prosker. And it's a very curious vegetable, right? It's like a purplish turnip, right? And it grows around the Sea of the Fallen Stars, and it's like kind of like a staple food of peasants, almost like a potato, but better. It can be used as a thickener in stews and a base for livestock slop mashes. It keeps very long and well when you protect it from the heat and the sun. It's also really good at resisting rot, and you can eat it even raw. You don't have to cook it. But the very curious thing about the Rudens is that they're very absorbent. It's one of the reasons why they cannot be grown in dry climates. They just don't take to dryness. But they also absorb water to the point they're almost like spongy, right? And they can also be induced to take on flavors by soaking it in spiced water or broth.
Yeah.
But especially in Prosker, they have discovered that it's really good to smuggle wine because you can really soak up wine in it and it doesn't spill, and it prevents sniffing hounds from sniffing out the contraband. So they're used in wine smuggling. Right.
Random. Yes. But interesting.
There you go.
But random.
Also, however, wine stored in a turnip doesn't store well in skins or kegs and needs to be bottled afterwards. There you go. A random piece of knowledge.
I guess it's one of those strange things where the Rudam probably gives it a certain added flavor as well.
Yeah, I will type you because when I saw this, it's like, oh, I must type this up because it's so weird that you would have picked up on it.
Yeah. Cool.
And now we get into Cormyr.
Proper.
Finally.
Yep.
Okay, back to the map. So we're starting on the southwest corner down there. I mean, Erebor is actually, oddly enough, as well on the map. Interesting.
Yeah, well, it's Cormyr and surrounding lands.
So, as I told you with the others, you would have gotten, there's like an entrance gate that's guarded with a war wizard and the purple dragons. They would check everyone over, and then they would basically give you the rundown of like, okay, if you have weapons, they need to be peace bonded. If you are not member of a guild, which you are not, they would have peace bonded it. They would explain like what the laws are, especially the thing about the cats.
That's okay. I'm a perfect lover of cats.
Yeah. And then they would have sent you on your merry way along with the caravan, right? Because you're at this point traveling with yet a different caravan.
Yes.
Yeah. And actually, this is the caravan you'll be traveling with all the way to Arabel.
Right.
Yeah. Very nice, talkative people. They're Cormyrians, by the way. So,
first question would be, do they know of any adventurers guilds I can join?
I mean, they will point out that you can probably join adventurers guilds when you get to Arabel.
Okay. That seems like a long way to go with a peace bonded
you
weapon.
could maybe try in Highhorn Castle.
Okay.
There's some tougher people that dwell there.
And also, just out of curiosity, how do they peace bond a bow?
The same thing, probably, with a strap that you have to like peace bond it to a strap that you carry. Strap of your backpack.
Sure.
And it's more that they were peace bonding your quiver rather than a bow. So you would have to untie before you can pull an arrow. Because you can't really do with a bow much besides like maybe smack somebody over the head. Yeah,
I mean the short swords I get because they would be in scabbards.
Yeah, it would be the arrows rather than the bow, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. In which case I would make sure I keep a handful of pebbles on me.
They put a sack over the opening of the quiver and then peace bond it.
Tie it. Yeah. Okay. I'll keep a couple of pebbles on me for the journey, just in case I need to throw anything at people, to give me time to unpeace bond my.
That's fine.
Quiver.
Nobody minds pebbles, because you can't kill somebody with a pebble.
Yep. Is it possible to make a makeshift sling?
I mean, you can busy yourself on the way, I guess.
Sure. I'll do that. No, I tell you what I'll do. I'll busy myself with making extra arrow shafts.
Okay. You can do that.
Instead. So they don't have any arrowheads on them.
But anyway, you are now in Cormyr proper. The first trip takes you, let me check, I think Old Axe. Yeah, it's a ghost town. So you're basically 3 days into the journey. You will travel past, and they will tell you, like, because again, talkative people, very nice, but, talkative because bored. That Old Axe is used to be a mining hamlet. And has been abandoned because like they've been like incursions from the Farsi swamp and from the mountains. So as far as they know, it's a ghost town, and you can actually see the buildings from the road, right, as you travel past.
Derelict.
Abandoned, and because there have been repeated orc and hobgoblin raids.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
What did they mine? Do they know?
Copper, nickel. The
Copper,
mountains
nickel.
are full of that. Anyway,
Yeah. Right.
they would have taken a break here, probably overnight, right? But
Mhm.
it's a derelict town. And then the
Yeah.
next one, it would have taken you 1 day longer, a 30-mile stint. So they like pushed into the evening, right?
Yeah.
It's from Old to Skull Crag.
Mhm.
And Skull Crag basically is what took over the mining for Old Axe. Is where all the miners went. It's a large
Right.
fortified village
Mhm.
on the flat-topped spur of the old Blind Mage Mountain, and it basically overlooks the high road. And
Okay.
when you go up there, it basically commands a view for miles.
Yeah.
It's
Very
su-
defensible. You
it's
can see everything coming. I
Yes,
take it.
and this is why it's an ideal military base, right? Over half the Crag's folk are purple dragons who patrol up and down the road. And even the skies over
Jeez.
Stormhorns, and that would be actually really interesting because they have a flight of hippogriffs. So you can see them flying around.
Mhm.
And the tower is staffed by no less but by 9 war wizards.
Basically, don't mess with these guys.
No, and for that reason, because it's that safe and it's well
Mhm.
protected, unlike Old Axe was,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who settled here, like many shepherds and miners who come here in force, claiming basically they're
Yeah.
rolling hills around the village.
So if it's quite a high elevation, are most of the shepherd animals things like goats and
Yeah, you have
mountain sheep and stuff like
sheep
that?
and goats. They have basically meat to spare, right?
Yeah.
They have it good. They have meat to spare. The Delpho iron, nickel, and copper.
Okay.
And excess meat is preserved by magic and sold to passing merchants and caravans.
Mhm.
So there you go.
Interesting.
Your first proper touch with magic in the human world outside your own homelands, right? Would be this.
Yes. Yeah, I probably would have been very curious about how it was preserved.
And it's also the reason why there isn't that many merchants. I mean, you would have maybe a few guilds that you could join here. They're the higher ups because the town is already really well protected by the purple dragons, so there's not much business here. Why pay
Yeah.
mercenaries if you have half the town being guards?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair enough. It's more a case of just joining to unpeace bond the bow and stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, next
Mhm.
one would be Highhorn.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, 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 4
Once we've
days.
crossed the Stormhorn.
Yeah, basically around the corner. Highhorn has basically two levels. It's the gate itself, down below on the road.
Mhm.
And then the actual castle up there, which is fucking impressive because it literally has 3 walls. It's a fort.
Crikey.
It's serious stuff, right?
Yeah.
You can even see it like from below. But Highhorn is the name of the highest point in the Dragonjaw line of peaks, and of course the name of the castle itself, right?
Yeah.
It guards the pass through the Stormhorns, and it's basically Cormyr's Western Gate, like proper, right?
Yeah.
It's
I'm
not as
guessing there's quite a high military presence in the gate as well.
Not anymore. That was the part I
Okay.
was coming to, because it in the past it was very crucial, but now that the whatever was happening in the past in Cormyr is not as prevalent anymore. So it's not as crucial to the survival of the realm as it once was. So it's still the mightiest castle in the Forest Kingdom.
Yeah.
Right. The fortress actually occupies the entire peak. It has been sculpted into a formidable barrier, right? It's ringed by a moat and a wall, around which is the inner ward of barracks and granaries and deep wells, and then the inner ward has its own moat and ring wall, and then you around this is the outer ward. The caravan would have actually gone up, right? Because I'll tell you why in a moment. And this is the outer ward with its stables and armories and smithies and storerooms. And the outer ward has in turn its own moat and wall. The wall has 3 gates, right? And all leading down the main road, 1,000 feet below, by means of their own trails and stuff. Outside the outer wards walls are small fortified guest houses for the use of travelers who need the rather forbidding protection of the horn, right? For the night stop over. So this is the part where you would have seen. The really secure stuff inside, you wouldn't have seen that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And also very interesting, the guest houses are all staffed by purple dragons. They don't have civilian innkeepers here. They're all purple dragons.
Okay. Safety number 1.
But this
In
is
which
why
case,
I said, like,
I would
maybe,
have stayed at the guest house here.
and this is why I said maybe you can find a guild in Highhorn if somebody's traveling through. But again, there's so many purple dragons, even staffing the guest houses. Nobody's gonna pay mercenaries here unless they really fucking need something obscure to happen, right?
Sure, I would have spent probably the evening, because it's so safe.
Yeah.
I would have spent, depending on what time of day we arrived, the remainder of the evening kind of asking around about joining a guild, predominantly for the purpose of like heading eastward and kind of on that direction. So if there are any guilds who are here but operate out of Arabel, I would be interested in joining that guild.
Like you would have probably picked up on somebody driving through, and they would have probably, because they're not the people signing up people, they would have pointed you towards Arabel.
Okay.
Because you gotta sign the coster and get the pin, and it's not like they're walking around with it, right?
It's like they don't make it easy to sign up, do they? It's like,
But
why
not
isn't
in
there
these parts.
There should be a recruitment guy standing on the border going, do you want to sign up to the Adventurers Guild? Yes, you do. Oh, pay us the membership.
Well,
Thanks very much.
because the most jobs come out of Arabel and Suzail and Marsember, this is where the central...
Yeah,
guilds,
I'm not talking about legitimate people. I'm talking about people swindling you into thinking you signed up to an Adventurers
Oh yeah,
Guild.
yeah, that would go over so well in Highhorn, where like basically the purple dragons are breathing down your neck. Yeah, swindlers. That's something you have here. 100%
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, not.
Yeah.
Yep. Fine. In which case, I'm guessing it's getting towards late summer at this point.
Yes. Actually going into
Beginning of autumn.
Yeah. I haven't written down it specifically yet because it depends on how long you took in Arabel.
Yes,
And
but
that
you said
shifts
that
the
I would be
calendar
traveling with a caravan all the way there.
Yes.
So obviously there's a particular curiosity with my eyes that most people may have noticed on the caravan if I've been traveling with them
They
for so
probably
many
ask
days.
you about it, like, what's up with your eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, friendly people, and very talkative, and this is the entire reason why I'm giving you all this information, because they basically took a liking to you. It's like, oh, a lonely girl, pat, we gotcha, pat, right?
Yeah, and then they'd find out I'm actually quite capable.
I mean, yeah, they don't mind that, but it's nice people, right? And they told you a lot of stuff. So the next sprint would have been 1 day, actually, not that far, to Tyrluk.
But I imagine descending quite far if we're coming down out of the high horns. So it would have been a lot of elevation drop.
You would have arrived like late afternoon.
So the high horns, would they have been quite cold then, as you're literally
up there,
at the top of the peaks?
Yeah.
So probably winter clothing for the day.
It would have been a very nice reprieve from the heat that you had so far, and the dust and stuff, right?
Yeah, sure.
But Tyrluk is going to be an experience, because even the caravan people are like not too fond of it in a weird way, because I think this would be your favorite place, Chris, as a player, because this is the village of Get Off My Lawn.
How dare you?
So this small village doesn't welcome visitors except farmers from nearby, right? Who come here to market once a 10 day. Folk who must stop in Tyrluk for a night are advised to call on the local lord, the prodigiously fat, hard-drinking, roaring old Rip Soldag de Boer. and then endure his boisterous hospitality. And the caravan leader would have gone to Suldag, right? Because they travel here all the time, so they know already what to do. Like, they're already in favor.
They know the custom, so to speak.
And also the caravan leader was the one who told you that Suldag the boar is prodigiously fat, hard drinking and roaring old rip. In those exact words.
Charming.
Yeah. The villagers are apt to be almost hostile to strangers otherwise. And there's not much to see in Tyrluk anyway. There's like a smithy, a carter, and cottages. Most locals work for Charn the Smith or Olglul's Cartworks, which and the Pony Ranch, Siltur Shadow Shields Pony Ranch. And as the name implies, it's people like it here because they can fix their cart and maybe replace horses and stuff like that, right? So caravans like it for that reason. And they have really top quality mountain mounts, which they mostly sell to the purple dragons in Highhorn and anyone else with enough coin, right? So yeah, like I said, if you need new horses, horseshoes, wheels, chains, or even entire new wagons, the locals are happy to provide these things in return for good coin of the realm, mind you. By the way, at this point, you would have you would have exchanged your coin to Cormyrian coin.
Yes. Gold.
By the way, Lena and Cassius, Samira and Cassius, you would have probably done that already in Suzail. Cormyr has its own currency. Just a second. Cormyrian currency.
Golden Lions.
Golden Lions, yeah.
Predominantly.
Let me check. Cormyrian currency, because it's one of those details. Yeah. The coppers are called. A golden lion is actually worth 10 gold. 100 gold.
Huh.
So the least is a thumb.
So you can't have any gold coins, basically.
Yeah. The smallest one is the thumb, and it's worth 1 gold. Then the falcon, which is 10 gold. Then the lion, which is 100 gold, and the tri-crown platinum is 1,000 gold.
So they don't have any small coin.
No.
I'm fucked.
Yeah.
They don't take any silver or something.
You probably slept outside a lot. Yes.
Okay, so I take back my 5 silver.
Yes, that was my mistake, because I actually thought that the exchange rate was a bit less, a bit more forgiving. Anyway.
So the bath would have cost 1 gold instead of 1 silver.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's rich people in Cormyr. What can I tell you?
I officially have 15 silver. That's it.
But as I tell you, don't spend your money. I assume everything you spent up until now is I'm hand-waving it, right?
It's good to know.
Yeah. So given that I entered Cormyr with 2 platinum coins, they're actually worth a gold coin.
Yes.
So I basically divide everything I have by 10.
Yeah. 2 thumbs. It was me sneezing. Thank you. Where was I?
So do we actually have to reduce our coinage?
We can handle that afterwards. I wanna get through for this shit first, right?
Yeah, sure.
So Tyrluk, right? Where was I? Yeah, they happily take a coin in Tyrluk, right? And then basically they don't like outsiders, so they take a coin and then tell you to camp over there with an abrupt arm gesture indicating the location of there, and there being usually a moribund farm at the north end of town. It has 4 grassy fields, 2 good wells, and several old barns, and travelers are expected to keep to it. But interesting enough, they provided fire pits, ample firewood, which is kept dry under cover, and they even built privies. Just stay out of town unless you have to buy something, right?
Nice of them.
But one of the caravan folk, with a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, would have told you about the local legend, because you're one of the pretty things with that word. Because you're pretty, one of the pretty things. So keep an eye, right? They speak of that this village is the home of the Blue Blade, which in Cormyrian folklore is a famous gallant, really charming brigand who steals from rich travelers on all of the roads that travels to traverse the King's Forest, but often gives gems from earlier hauls to pretty ladies when he waylays them.
Well, that sounds like a very dubious term, waylays them.
I mean, he stops, robs everyone around them, and then chucks a gem at the pretty lady.
Chucks a gem at the pretty lady.
But as someone else in the caravan would have noted that, if all the accounts of the Blue Blade is true, the guy would be now 83 years old. So it's probably more several people, any robbing basically being put onto that local tale.
Yeah. As per usual with folk tales.
Yeah. I might sneeze. Wait.
Make up your mind.
I tried. Oh, god damn it, it stopped.
That's so annoying.
Yeah, I hate
and
it.
it comes back with a vengeance when you don't expect it.
So I apologize in advance if it catches me off guard and I sneeze into everybody's ear.
If you pinch the bridge of your nose for about 4 seconds, it should stop the sneeze permanently.
Yeah, doing it. Oh yeah, I can feel it. Oh, that's a great trick. Okay.
Just don't do it while you're trying to sneeze.
Okay.
Because that won't end well.
No, I had this today with trying to hold it in, and then my brain almost exploded. Anyway, last stint is Tyrluk to Eveningstar, and then it's Eveningstar Arabel, right? But next one, that's 4 days, 70 miles.
Yep.
Eveningstar is actually the first properly impressive town in your eyes, because it's this picturesque farming land where there's the Starwater Road meets the High Road, there's the Starwater River, and there's this gorge, right, the canyon, but it's this small and quiet town with a prosperous farmers market, and it has it lies across the mouth of the rock gorge, and it's full of trees and gardens, and the village rises out of the surrounding farms like an orchard, almost with buildings in it, right?
Yeah.
It's the closest you've seen a human town living in tune with nature. They really tend to the plants and the trees and the flowers, and I mean, it's not left to grow wildly, right? But it's still it's really
more manicured.
Not British manicured, right? But it's.
I think you have a different perspective of what most people in Britain would call British manicured.
I'm not talking. They don't have cut hedges and that kind of shit,
Yeah.
It's just nice gardens, right? Oh wait, sneeze maybe, no. It is dominated by the stone cliff, right? And the prosperous fields of the House of Mourning is it called. It's a handsome spired temple of Layfander that sprawls in the mouth of the gorge. And there's no other temples or shrines that exist in Eveningstar aside from that temple. But the local lord allows temporary shrines to be set up in the market for up to 3 days. Dawn of the first to sunset of the last. Just nothing permanent, because he's a fan of Layfander, right?
Sure.
And Eveningstar is seriously one of the scenic spots in Cormyr. It's a place of like soft and glorious sunsets and sunrises and gentle starlit summer skies. The local farmers keep Sharada, which is a long-horned, hardy beef cattle covered with shaggy fur. It's spelled this way. If I can actually hit the right chat button. That way.
Okay.
And sheep.
I assume they are good meat cattle as well as milk cattle?
And shaggy fur, yeah. Not great for like clothing, but
like a
stuffing.
good shaggy fur carpet kind of thing.
Now I finally
Splat.
sneezed.
Yep, heard it coming.
Bless you.
Finally. Let me just blow my nose. I'll be right back.
Sure. Dun 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 dun.
Fucking dry winter air. God fucking damn it.
Yep. Now.
The cattle and the sheep are walled in the common land, right?
Yeah.
Because it's also on the edge of the Stonelands plateau, so they want them falling off, right, as well.
Yes.
The farmers gather once every 6 days for the market, so it's actually a more common market than in most places.
Right.
And they bring, produce that's often snapped up by the visiting caravan. So like the caravan leader basically timed it, sort of, by experience
to hit a market. Yeah.
Aside from that, Eveningstar produces wine, parchment, wool, milk, cheese, eggs, poultry, mutton, beans, carrots, and parsnips. You're welcome.
Lots of produce, basically.
Yes.
You mentioned that the Lord allows shrines to be set up for up to 3 days.
Yes, but you have to get the permit and stuff, right? So you're not long enough there to do all that.
Okay. I was gonna do an overnight shrine.
No, it would take you longer to get the permit then, right? I considered that.
Sure.
But it's a favorite stopover for overland caravans, right? God damn it!
Still hasn't lost that sneeze.
No. And most caravan masters, including yours, are good friends of Dunman Kiriak, who's the owner of the Lonesome Tankard. It's one of the best inns to be found anywhere.
Okay.
And this is like still like nice weather, sort of. You can see like dozens of caravan masters can be seen fishing from the Starwater Bridge, enjoying a pipe or two, strolling the evening streets. Even more caravan guards are often like seen bathing in the Starwater swimming holes to drive off the dust and sweat of the road. It's such a like really peaceful and tranquil thing. But for you specifically, you would have seen a very curious thing. In the evening, you would have caught glimpses of Tresem, which are winged cats.
Are they obvious domesticated Tresem, or are they wild?
They're used enough to the people here, and them not bothering them, that you could maybe.
But they're wild.
But they're wild, yeah.
I would definitely approach. At least try and get the attention of one. Maybe catch a fish.
Yeah.
One in the evening, and then kind of cook it over the open fire, and then feed some of it to some of the Tresem, and see if I can ingratiate myself with them. Nothing, just out of curiosity more than anything. Kind of seeing cats with wings would be strange enough, particularly the different kinds of wings.
They're very, very intelligent. They're actually above average human intelligence. They can't speak.
Smarter than me, then, unfortunately.
But they have their own language, which is Tresem speak, which is like based on purrs and growls.
Okay. I mean, I would try speaking to them in various different things, obviously, like Elvish, Sylvan, that kind of thing.
Do roll me an animal handling, because there are skittish. I mean,
So
most
here's
people.
my first question: how do I roll an animal handling check? Do I just click on it?
Yeah, you click on it.
Okay. Because now I have to double check. I'm pretty sure I get advantage on animal handling. Just need
Range
to
of
double
danger.
check it. Range of danger, yeah. And it's not even range of danger, it's revised range of danger.
I'm so happy that Arrow had only a one place between Hillsfar and Arabel. 2, 3. Well, 3, yeah.
Oh no, it's advantage when I am survival tracking. So it's just normal roll. That's fine. So normal roll.
It fucking loves you.
Hi. Not surprised when I've got kind of some raw fish and some cooked fish, and I would offer it both to see which one it was interested in.
The raw.
Yeah.
Unless the cooked fish is not seasoned, then it would eat the cooked.
Definitely not seasoned. I
Yeah.
don't season my food at all. I eat everything as it comes.
They like elves, right? So you know, they also
sense, yeah.
they can form close friendships. And stories told of like their stories, like especially like because they're common in this area around, you know, like, people kind of are used to them because they're like mischievous little fuckers, right?
Yep.
They like playing pranks. I mean,
Right.
again, they're smarter than humans, so they kind of like the people here are used to dealing with them, and they
Yes.
have like all sorts of stories like told of like heroic Trasim sacrificing themselves to save beloved companions.
Or alerting someone to a child falling
They
into the
could have
river or something.
also have equally strong hatreds to do for those they disliked, right?
Yeah.
They love teasing dogs, which cannot chase them because they can fly, right?
Yeah.
But it's also interesting they ignore birds entirely. They don't bother them.
Okay.
But they're deadly rivals to sturges and manticores.
Yep. Not surprising. Manticore seems a bit of a surprise. They're big in comparison.
Yeah,
to
but
a Trasim.
you have to keep in mind that Trasim are magical creatures. They're not cats, right?
Yeah, but
it's more like in packs they would attack, right? They do more like the hit and run or hit and fly away, right? And they can sense poison magically, right? More than just a normal beast by sniffing it out. They can they have the cat's native ability to find and follow a scent. They can see in the dark, of course, but they can also see invisible creatures. And yeah, they can detect poison. And
fair enough.
They themselves are apparently immune to every kind of poison.
Interesting. I would have fed it the raw fish or the cooked fish, its choice, and then probably regrouped with the caravan to head on.
Okay. And then we're basically already there, right? In Arabel. I already talked about Arabel. It would have taken you 3 days. And I already told you that you basically would have picked up the first proper like rumor in Highhorn, while like one of the purple dragons basically telling the caravan leader. Second one in Tyrluk in that like on that field, right? Or basically the caravan leader after he came back from the visit of the like fat lord, he would have like brought back more news about the tower. But again, nothing specific at this point. It would have still been
nothing
more
concrete.
like
just
like
rumors.
Yeah, it could be in the King's Forest, it could be in the Huluk Forest, it could be even in the Redwoods. Nobody knows for sure. In Eveningstar, it would have been the first time because of the sheer amount of caravans coming from Arabel out, right? Because they split off in Eveningstar. A whole bunch of them go to Deadlook and Weymouth, right?
Yeah.
And then a whole bunch towards Tyrluk and the Highhorn, right? On that route. But because of the sheer amount of caravans, you would have basically picked up more. And this is like the first time we're like, oh yeah, we heard of a guy who actually has the map, but he's not offering like enough for anyone to bother. And there has been people who have shown up and claiming to have maps over the years, right? You can never know what is true and what is not. And again, that's like on top of the other rumors and stuff that's happening in the King's Forest, which is a lot, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, that's like the first very specific thing. There is a guy who actually looks for people in Arabel, offering like not much money, like basically a thumb, right, to hire them to find the tower because he has the map supposedly.
Yeah. Head straight for Arabel at this point.
Awesome.
Probably leaving the caravan behind because the roads are relatively safe enough here, I would imagine. I mean, they can't be that unsafe, otherwise no caravans would be traveling ever at all.
Again, I'm hand waving potential dangers, so let me then recalculate how long it took you, because you're faster than the caravan.
That was the idea. I imagine if there's any danger, it's going to go for the slow-moving caravan, and not the quick-moving elf.
You could have pushed. It's 45 miles.
2 days, easy peasy.
Yeah, you're basically arriving like at noon. Versus a caravan where you would have arrived like a very late evening because they would have pushed.
Happy to have pushed exhaustion as well. So.
Okay, so now that you're in Arabel, now we're getting to the good stuff. Roll me an investigation check, please, if you're looking for information.
Here comes a waste of time.
Oh, you got that right.
So the 2 days I made up traveling here to be much quicker, I just lost 25 days trying to actually find information about what's going on.
Yeah, roll me a 1d10, please. Oh wow.
Yeah, we're just gonna be on the way on the road when you catch up.
So it's it's basically here. So what's happening here is that for the first 10 days, because it's 1d10 plus 8, so 18 days total took you, right?
That explains why I have no money.
Yeah, but basically
spent it all on taverns trying to find information.
You're not used to dealing with human cities or cities in general, right?
Yep.
So it's not like you have good instincts in like getting yourself out of dangerous situations, and like if you see a drunk person, you instinctually like back off and that kind of stuff, or instinctually know that, oh, this looks dodgy, so I'm not gonna go there, that kind of stuff. But you're good at tracking in the wilderness. You have no fucking clue how to track shit in a city for information, right?
Why is there stone where there should be mud and I can follow?
And it's overwhelming. It's a huge city with a lot of stores, a lot of pubs, a lot of places. But one thing you would have picked up relatively quickly is joining a guild. Again, it would cost you at least a thumb to join.
Yeah. I'd probably do it because of the unfamiliarity of the city, and I would want to not have peace bonded weapons in potentially dangerous.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how safe it is really.
For this kind of stuff, I would actually tell you to deduct this because now we're in Arabel, so this is where we're going.
Well, depending on how many gold I actually have, depending on how we convert stuff into Cormyrian currency.
I mean, 10 gold is 1 thumb. So 10 gold, 1 thumb.
So I lose 10 gold.
Yeah.
Would have had half the fun.
I mean, if you stick to the there aren't that many shabby, oh my god, I will never go there alone places in Arabel.
That's fine. I'll pay it.
Yeah.
I'll hand them a platinum. I'll hand them a thumb, essentially.
Okay.
A platinum coin.
Yeah.
Converted.
But yeah, so the first 10 days is basically that. And
Mhm.
then the next 4 days of the last 8 basically is you like repeatedly kind of shift around to the same places, and then like you kind of accidentally find new ones. You start here and there noticing like the same people asking about the tower. Not people, one guy, Cassius.
So he's not.
Samira is
He's
like
not
more
asking
like
for the adventurers. He is seeking the same person I am.
he
Essentially.
is looking for information about the tower, and like you're kind of suffering from the same thing of like people have heard that somebody or have not heard, depending on like how interested they are to begin with.
Mhm.
Some people are sending people off to the south, some people to King's Forest, some people to Hulak Forest, some people to the,
Can I ask the guild that I've recently joined what they know?
Yes.
To
They
try
would-
and save myself some time
It's a smaller
and
guild.
potentially.
Yeah, so they've heard is someone from. It's a lizard folk. They can tell you that much.
Okay,
That
that narrows it down.
They narrow it down also to like, oh, if you're looking for him, probably in these places, and this is where you start bumping into Cassius. So basically, your 10-day
Okay.
stint is
Mhm.
more a thing that like it took you that long to figure out the guild thing and then join it,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
they pointed you direction, and now finally you're making progress.
Mhm.
Right. In the meantime, you could have
Sure.
like easily gone hunting for food on the outside of Arabel, no problem, right? So basically, this is where you,
Now that I don't have a
lizard folk.
peace-bonded bow.
Yeah. Now you don't have a peaceful bow, but you start noticing this dude asking about the tower, and this guy who's offering, like, who has the map as well.
Mhm.
So what are you doing with that?
I'm going to spend a fair bit of time trailing him to see what he's obviously definitely looking for. It's not just a case of he's heard the rumor and he wants to know
No,
more.
he's very much looking for it. Yeah.
In which case, I am going to 100% follow him in the shadows.
Roll me a stealth, a general. And again, you don't know how to move in the city. Cass, what's your passive perception?
How do you calculate passive perception again? I always forget.
Just wisdom.
It's a 10 plus your modifier, your perception modifier.
Oh, so 11.
Mine
Yeah.
is the same.
So
and since I'm
you
accompanying
wouldn't notice it immediately because it's a big town, right? But you would notice eventually this small, like, not well, this young elf. Well, you can't tell if they're young because they look like any other elf. It's not the first time. Again, you spent a good amount of time around elves, but it doesn't tell you like enough to know how old they were based on their looks. But this is like elf chick who very awkwardly fails to stealth in the city, but is following you. That's before you had this conversation with Samir.
Oh, before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but also, by the way, in the meantime, Chris, Viera
Mhm.
would have also noticed that he a few times bumped into this other woman, where they basically had the conversation like, "Oh, you again? Oh, what a coinkydink!"
Well, bye.
And then both walking in the same direction again.
Yeah.
Just awkwardly side
But
by
yeah,
side.
so Cassius, you would have noticed that for the last 4 days, there's this like elven chick following you around, at quite a distance, nothing too intrusive, nothing menacing looking, right? But it's too obvious. Like after a certain while, it can't be anything else but she's following you.
I've lived in a few fucking shady places, so
Yeah.
I will try to lose her if that's possible. For going that deep into it in session
Roll a
0.
deception. Roll me a deception.
Okay.
Deception.
But yeah,
Ooh.
he's
We can also
faking-
do stealth. It's fine.
Or stealth, yeah. Stealth you can't really because you're in plain sight, right? That's your insight, Chris. Go for it. Roll it.
Fail.
Yes.
The dice gods are active today.
Very much so.
But
Nice knowing you guys.
no, but as it turns out, so like then the two of them met, like basically finally got together, and then over the next 4 days, we're gonna get to after I'm done with Arrow. Arrow!
Hey!
Sorry, Chris.
I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Talk to each other. I'll be right back. Sorry.
To be honest, I'm impressed
fuck
I
the city
rolled
boy.
that high. I stuck with you for several days before you lost me, and then I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just go back to looking for this person myself instead. I was expecting to roll a natural 1 at this point.
God, the quinkydinks once we all meet up. Oh, this weird girl that's been following me, and the other weird girl that I've been bumping into.
I was hoping that Chin was gonna go stealth versus perception. Because I'm guessing your
No,
stealth
the
is as
reason
good as
why
my
I didn't go
perception
for
as well.
stealth, as I said, it's because he was technically in plain sight. So it's not like stealth is going invisible immediately. It's more like
No, I
he needs
know,
to fake
but-
it out to trick you into looking into a different direction to begin with, and that's more deception than, in my opinion.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
Both would have worked, but
I do have a really I got a question about the calendar on Faerun, because they have some really weird stuff going on here. So they have, to me it looks like anyway, they have a month, right? And then they have
In
so that
between
month would have
days.
30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have a month with 1 day in
Yeah,
Yes.
these are
every
like
so often.
some sort of festival-esque names.
Yeah,
think.
they're filler days
They
in
are.
between.
They're like holidays.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
autumn
yeah.
equinox isn't in the middle of the month. It's like a filler day in between 2 months, for example.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's not
That's
the
really
autumn equinoxes. They are like special market holidays and stuff.
Mhm.
And they're marked specially, they're
That's
not
so
part of
country.
the month, they're like, yes, separate.
Yeah.
I don't know who came up with the Harpers calendar, but that's what they came up with. So I think they came up with that because they wanted to have 365 days during the year. Because those 5
Yeah.
days literally made it 365.
Originally, holidays in the Forgotten Realms in the second edition would have been like a 5 or a 6 day period in a 10 day.
Yeah.
And people would have had the other days off. So they'd have been in their markets celebrating and selling food and whatever. And then for the other 4 days, they'd have been off on holiday,
Yeah.
basically.
Hmm.
But yeah, not anymore.
Interesting.
So
Yeah. So
that's Viera. So we're going with Stheno.
hey.
Hey, now we're starting with the tragedy.
Oh no.
already.
So, I did tell you already, like, so you basically started Selgond, right? And it's the typical tour.
Mhm.
We don't even have to go to the big map. It's a typical tour from. Actually, we do have to go
So
to,
it'd
but
be-
I don't wanna.
Like I could just list out the names real quickly because I actually have them written down. So it'd be like
It's
Selgon 2.
Ordulin. It's 100 miles,
Ordulin.
5 days, and you would have actually stayed in Ordulin for 10 days, because let me just
It still
open
existed.
it still existed, but here I'm opening up the calendar. You can see it in the same window I'm sharing for the music.
Oh, I'm not looking at that at the moment. Here, let me open it up.
You basically left at the beginning of Kaiforn, which is the high summer season, because most trade in Ordelin and around that route happens in summer, right? But specifically, your father left at that point because you would have then spent the 10 days up to the summer solstice in Ordelin. So you would have like partaken in the summer solstice festival, and then you would have continued like on.
Seems legit.
Yeah. So and then basically you traveled from Ordelin up the Rofavir's road to where it crosses the Moonsea Ride, and the Moonsea Ride starts actually in Arabel. Here I'm gonna drop everyone to the Faerun map.
Because I don't have your super uber map of the region.
There you go. So the Moonsea Ride. So here, if you go into Sembia, that's where Selgond is. That's the. Back then, it wasn't yet the capital. By the way, it was one of the major ports. Like it was a big port city. Here is Selgond.
What did you just do? Where did you go? You keep seeing like here in this place, and but I don't see what you're pointing to.
Are you looking at Foundry or are you looking at the stream?
I'm looking at your watch stream.
No, don't. No, not in Discord. Look at Foundry.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Here,
I opened up the stream for the map, for the calendar, not the map. The map is still in Foundry.
Okay, gotcha. Alright, it's time to zoom in. How do you move the map around? Like,
right click and hold. And
right click and drag.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I was so confused. Okay, yeah. So we're starting right there.
Yeah. So we started in Selgon, then you went to Ordelin, yeah. And then you basically went up the. Need my notes because it's like fucking unpronounceable fucking name.
To Esembra over the river.
No, I'm talking about the road itself, what it's named.
Oh, Raufvin. No, that was the other road.
Rauf Alvir's road, right?
Yeah.
And basically all the way where it crosses the Moonsea Ride, which is here.
Oh my.
Right. And like as you can see, if you follow the route, like, you know, along here, this way, right? It eventually, and you know this route. Your father goes like, you know, Selgond, Ordelin, you know, Ashabenford, Tilverton, Scar. Actually, it's New Tilverton, Arabel, you know, and then around back into Sembia, and that's like that tour that he does when he does this tour, right? So basically, the plan was you attach yourself to a caravan. A caravan he hasn't traveled with before, predominantly human, actually 100% human. And when you reached the crossroads, basically they caught wind by like other people traveling, basically from Ashabenford, that Hillsfar has broke the alliance with House
Melchior? No.
Sorry, I'm consulting my.
Yeah. Your notes are so much more thorough.
No. I'm looking it up because it's one of those complicated Elven names.
Yeah. Seal Killer Melketh? I think.
House Daldrageth. There.
Oh.
Yeah. Hillsfar broke the alliance with House Daldrageth, which is like a house of Sand Elves. Wouldn't know more than that, actually. But basically, it put Cormyr on edge because they might go on war with Hillsfar, right? So, and because the caravan you traveled with is actually Hillsfarian. They decided to nope out of going to Ashabenford, and they turned right and went to Hillsfar.
Oh shit.
Right, because they want to go home and be with their families, right? So this is how you ended up in Hillsfar. Because your father, because you're along for the ride, would have never traveled alone in the Cormyr forest.
Yeah.
On the road, ever. So he decided, like, okay, can't help it, let's just bite the bullet and go there. And he looked not too happy about it, by the way. And he didn't tell you why, because, like, like a parent would do, they wouldn't tell you,
Yeah.
I mean, up until then,
what's wrong?
he's just like, he would have been like, I'm worried about, like, the situation, and hopefully nothing will happen on the road, right? But you basically never seen him this worried, because keep in mind, like, the way you describe it, you are from a noble merchant family. The most trouble you have ever seen in your entire life up until now is maybe a drunk dude in one of the inns, and your father would have held your way long before this would have started throwing punches.
Yeah, somebody trying to spend your regular gold coins, like, ew, get away from me. Yeah. I'm kidding.
I don't even know what you mean by that.
Oh, just some stuff we were chatting about in the background in the OC.
But, like, it's like basically you're not used to any violence, conflict, danger around you at all at this point, right?
Yeah.
So you get to Hillsfar, and from the crossroad to Hillsfar, it would have taken you 5 days, right? Very tense 5 days. It's 120 miles approximately. And on the gates, and as they, like, went through each person, a lot of them from Hillsfar, so they didn't have any trouble. Your father getting more and more tense and kind of like keeping his hood up and stuff, and then they got to you guys, and then they had him take his hood off and discovered that he's a half-orc. And he tried to protect you at first, like, oh no, she's not with me and stuff, but the caravan leader not wanting to get into trouble with the Red Plumes, which is the guards of Hillsfar, would have been like, no, she is his daughter.
That cocksucker.
I mean, they weren't very nice, like, friendly towards you. They were business-like, but again, you kind of not used to certain things because of the way you grew up, right?
Yeah.
So basically, they would have apprehended you guys, put you into prison. The sentencing would have been very quick. Like, basically, a disinterested judge, you're orc scum, we don't give a fuck, right? And they would have been like, okay, you choose. We don't have time to deal with you now because we have, like, shit happening. I mean, they wouldn't even explain to you that much. It would have been basically, pick death sentence or arena. Right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And you would have had this, like, separately, like, your father and you, like, so, you had nobody to, like, even give you. There's not really an advice. It's not really a choice. Like, you either die or you maybe die.
So if I pick execution, do I have to re-roll a new character?
Yes.
That's okay. Let's go for the other option. Just making sure.
No, I would say that then the mechanism would have kicked in sooner. The pact that you made.
Right.
But we're going with, like, you picked the arena, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is basically happening approximately, not approximately, I actually did calculate this on stream before you even joined me. This is happening approximately on the 16th of Flame Rule, like stuff like that. I'll give you I'll give everyone the exact dates when we're done with this, because again, I was unsure about the Arabel part, because that can, vary. But basically, for the last last half of Flame Rule, basically, you've been chucked into the arena. And again, because you never experienced combat until then, Noble Merchant's Daughter, they beat the ever-loving crap out of you, right? It was basically for you the next 2.5, 10 days, where a mixture of either being in a stinky cell with like barely any food and water and trying to recover, and then being chucked back into the arena and having the crap beaten out of you.
Yeah, would not do so well at all.
You've never experienced pain like this in your entire life, right?
Yeah, like
and
the worst
then
pain I've ever
basically
had
the
is, like,
height
breaking
of
a nail.
achievement was then during the Midsummer Festival, a festival that you actually usually remember very fondly, because it's a festival of love and music and feast, right? For this, because they were trying to still maintain like the illusion of security in Hillsfar, they were still like staging festivals and stuff. So you were set up to fight your own father in the arena, because you didn't see him in those 2.5 weeks at all. The first time you see him again is in the arena, when you realize that they set you up like, oh, the orc scum will fight each other because they're animals. Basically, that kind of story, right?
Humans suck.
I mean, honestly, the orc hatred is kind of justified in this area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're not nice, even remotely. You cannot even interpret it like by personal opinion them to be nice. No, they're really bad. So, but Hillsfar is raised as scum. Don't get me wrong. But in the case of orcs, it's actually spot on to a certain degree, because people, not just like humans, but like all races, have greatly suffered from orc hordes in this area. They have flattened entire elven kingdoms, right? And dwarven kingdoms and human kingdoms. It's not a great race in this area.
Yeah, the orcs here are like not at all like Eberron orcs. They're not nice and chief-like.
No.
Yeah, they're terrible.
But anyway, so Midsummer, like, which is usual, this like festival that's like a love and music and feast, ends for you with like you having to fight your father. And prior to that, the thing happened in your dream, of course, right?
Yeah.
So basically the fight concludes the way it concludes. I'm not gonna give it away. And literally it rains at night, and it is said that usually Midsummer, the gods themselves take a hand to ensure good weather. This night breaks a thunderstorm, and it is said that if bad weather is experienced on this night, it is considered to be an extremely bad omen. Sure enough, the Fairy woke up the next day and started attacking the city. And you first didn't even notice much, because again, it's not like you were wandering the city and then could notice. You were locked away, right? But then the fighting like escalated more and more and more. Eventually they broke through the walls and stuff, and then basically 10 days after they started attacking, you finally got to the point where like there was enough chaos and mayhem in the city itself that it gave you the out, right? And that's basically on the 11th of Hysan, of Iliasis. This is where you escaped. So in the middle of this, like, combat and chaos and mayhem, you got away. So before we move on, because you did spend some time in Hillsfar and in the cells, surrounded by some people, I need you to roll me a history check.
Okay. Let me just click on that. History. And normal. Public. not bad.
Okay, the thing that you would have known to a certain degree, and this is like mostly what you heard like on the way to Hillsfar,
Mhm.
and then somewhat after the fact, right? So the first part would have been like during the caravan is that Hillsfar is a trade city located on the southern shore of the Moonsea, which is above there on the map. And it's known for Dragon's Breath, which is a brandy-like liquor. And
Okay.
access to the city is restricted to individuals approved by the current government, right? And this is as much as you would have gotten because the Karen wouldn't have told you.
So I probably would have been really excited to go there than
Yeah,
just hearing
yeah.
that it's like, oh, it's a trade city,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and the dragon breath stuff.
But what is actually is that non-humans are strictly forbidden. Like they are flat out illegal. The thing that you have kinda overheard in between, you know, curling up in pain, is that Hillsfar vies with Zentil Keep for control of the region. It is infamous for its arena. Imagine that. Which is like, yeah, as you found out, the site of gladiatorial games. And non-humans are super fucking likely to wind up there. Imagine that. Along with criminals and political dissidents. Yeah. But otherwise, almost all the goods in the region pass through Hillsfar in the hands of middlemen and intermediary merchants. Right? If it weren't for that hatred, if actually your father would have been human, you would have had a great time here. Until the stuff happened, right? I mean, you wouldn't have even stayed that long, honestly. And when it comes to the guards are called the Red Plumes. They're the enforcers of Hillsfar. They have helped in purging the town of thieves, and are actually respected and feared across the entire city to the point of being known as the Red Death. They operate directly under the will of the First Lord Malfiir, who is the ruler of.
He even has an evil name.
Yeah, this is the guy who broke the alliance with the elves. He flat up flipped in the finger, right?
Those first suck.
He actually violently took over the city and then had the Red Plumes, which are 5,000 men strong, have purged it of all non-humans. Yeah. But they also, on the regular basis, which you overheard, harass the inhabitants of Hillsfar, quite regularly extorting them in order to maintain a fear, like the fear of his authority, like of Malfear's authority.
Huh.
So they're like really, really bad, right?
So this guy Malfear, he's very much like a Stalin kind of figure. Like he's really.
Yeah. Not that your character would know who Stalin is.
Yeah, who have no idea.
Yes. No. So yeah, you would have escaped, and I'm saying for a little bit on this big map. Basically, I think you would have you know that you have to go south, right? Because north is the Moonsea, south is home, south is somewhere you know, right? So you would have probably had a very rough time getting back to the crossroads and then kind of making your way to Ashabenford. And it would have taken you about 7-8 days. And you're lucky you're traveling during this time because there's a lot of fallen nuts from the trees and berries in the forest.
Yes.
And you would have by the time you got to Ashabenford, you were more like starved than actually and you were still recovering from your injuries. You got more injuries in the meantime, so you were more dead than alive by the time you reached Ashabenford.
Okay.
So let's start off with a persuasion check to get help.
Oh boy. Let's see how we do. Normal. Well, actually, would this be at disadvantage because I look like beat up and bloodied and like
Well, I mean,
malnourished?
people in Ashabenford are not complete fucking assholes, right? Somebody would have probably taken pity on you. You're not just like filthy. You were visibly injured and hurt, right?
Okay.
So like you're basically getting advantage on the pity check and disadvantage on looking like shit. So like it's canceling each other out. I did put some thought into this, yeah.
Okay. So normal roll. I'm fairly persuasive in my approach. So she would fall back like instinctively on her former etiquette and like greeting people politely and gracefully. Like she's trying not to like bleed on people's shoes.
Yeah, okay.
And
There's nothing
just,
graceful about you in this moment. You are
like
mostly starved.
like she's making the attempt, but it's fucking terrible.
You found enough water to not die on the way, right?
Yeah.
Because luckily the Cormyr forest like has a lot of streams and that kind of stuff. But like you reached dehydration state very closely a few times, right?
Oh my god.
I want to hammer home that it's basically a miracle you made it this far, and you're not dead. Because you know nothing about survival. You know nothing about surviving in the wilderness, right? Yeah, it's like basically pure fucking accident you survived.
Yeah, I got lucky. Nuts falling from trees. There's like water nearby. Oh my! Evading war. Yeah.
Yeah. Like... You probably got some worms on the way because you didn't boil the water and that kind of stuff, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So you're gonna be dealing with that over the next, with tapeworms and stuff. It's gonna be great. It's awesome.
It's good for my figure, but oh man.
Like shitty game. Hashtag survival simulator. Fuck yeah. No, but this is like the thing. Like, I left you for the end because this is what I'm doing right now. It's like I'm giving you a good perspective of what your character experienced before you guys got to Arabel, so you can integrate it into your experience as the character and the personality, right? Because some of the things you have done, you have seen, you have heard, did shape who you are right now. When you arrive in the Ashabenford, you haven't had more dreams in the meantime, by the way, because you were completely in delirious survival mode. You were actually more delirious from like starvation and dehydration and stumbling around. Luckily, you could follow
higher
the road.
Functioning starts to go. Yeah.
So you do find eventually somebody who takes pity on you. So
thank you, sir.
For the next several 10 days, you basically stuck around the Ashabenford. Roll me another persuasion check to see if you can find some work to provide for the most basic, like food and shelter.
Okay.
This is more like to see how long it will take you to find it. You will find it somewhere, right?
Okay. Professional cheese tester, here we come.
Yeah, no. You were scrubbing floors. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I tried for the cheese tester and they threw a sponge at me.
Yeah, basically somebody at some point took enough pity on you to like be like, okay, you can do stuff like, because you have not learned to do these things. You had servants, right? You had goblin servants in your house.
Yeah.
You basically, they're like, what can you do? And you're like, I don't know. And then you like list all the like noble things that you learned in your life, and they're like, yeah, that's of no use to me, right? And then basically you had to figure out for like across like the next 10, 20, 30 days how to actually do that shit, like, carry a bucket. Although your newfound abilities did help,
Yeah,
so like once your wounds were like tended to and you healed a bit and your ribs were not like hurting every time you breathe in, carrying a bucket, scrubbing a floor and that kind of stuff, and then eventually you started having dreams again, right?
Oh fuck.
And
okay.
But in the meantime, let me tell you a bit about Ashabenford, because this is like the first time you actually have time to It's the capital of the Mistledale. It's the largest settlement in the Mistledale. It's also the central, most well-protected, right? It serves as a marketplace for local Dalesfolk farmers and generally is a pleasant locale for visitors, right? It's composed of rustic homes and collections of cottages, and it's set on the eastern side of the river Ashaba, which is why it's Ashabenford, right? But you also have some notable buildings on the west bank as well. It's the busy trade route of the Moonsea Ride. It's not the first time you've been here, right? But usually you would stand like for a few days, like stay there for like a 10-day with your father and then move on. So like there's certainly things that you recognize, but not from this perspective, right? So you have this like weird overlap of like memories of being on the plush side of this, and now you're seeing the plush people, but now you're in the background scrubbing their toilets after they leave.
Oh man.
So a very
that's
humbling
rude awakening.
experience,
Yeah.
actually, right? Because now it gives you the perspective of like what it would have been like for all the people around you that you have never paid attention to until now.
Yeah, that's very humbling indeed.
It is ruled by the Council of Six, who are elected representatives from around Mistledale. And let me see. Blah blah blah. You don't care about this. You don't care about that. You don't. No, yeah. Okay. So.
Anything like Versace and Gucci, I'm cool with. So you just let me know.
Yeah. No. You don't have money for food, right?
Shit. Okay. Scraps.
But the thing that you're experiencing, considering you were kind of met with like suspicion coming from Hillsfar originally, right? To a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
You pass as human, that's fine. But it's like this whole dodgy thing of like young women like you don't travel on their own. Right?
Wow. Okay.
It's weird. The whole situation around you is weird. So you having the thing that's like happening to you at night, like the dreams, is not something that you would have the presence of mind not to share this with people.
Okay.
Like you're intelligent
Yeah,
enough
that seems
to
reasonable.
know that talking about it directly is probably a really fucking bad idea. But knowing what you know from the route is you know that there is a lot of magically capable people in Cormyr, because they have like full on trained war wizards. So maybe somebody there could help, right? Because in the town you are, it's a big city, right? It's not too big, but in the area you were like around the people and stuff, it's like you already an oddity that stood out, so like people know of you to a certain degree within certain circles. And then if you wanted to start talking about like some potential demonic entity talking to you in your dreams, that would get around very quickly, because you know gossip is a thing and you know that, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to ask around about this in the town you live and work for food. Also, you still want to get back home, maybe, right? At this point, I think you still want to get back home. So like, I would say it would have taken you like some like putting together enough to tag along with a caravan and basically get hired on as another helper of like, hey, I will carry water and firewood and you know scrub your clothes and that kind of, like, you know, because you don't know how to cook. You don't know how to cook, so you're useless at that. But yeah, so you would have tagged along with a caravan at some point. And like I said, depending on how long it takes in Arabel to investigate things, you have spent more or less time in Ashabenford, right? The next place you would have gotten to is, if I can open my window.
It's such a long way.
is actually New Tilverton or Tilverton Scar, which is 12 days of travel with a caravan. New Tilverton is slightly north of Tilverton Scar. Tilverton Scar, at some point, was just exploded. There's like, it was wiped off the face of the earth, right? And there's a new settlement of some survivors and some like just basically a rest station, because again, it's a 12-day journey from Ashabenford, right? Basically to like, change horses, fix carts and stuff like that. Nothing special, right? It's really tiny. It's not even, you could call it maybe a hamlet, right? But from a New Tilverton to Arabel, it would have been 5 days, except that you would have also stopped, and I have to like change it back to the Cormyr map. You would have stopped, like basically, Crag Castle is the gate into.
Okay. Right
and
there.
no,
Ooh.
you would have actually gone this way.
Oh, okay.
Gone this way and then
To
down.
Griffin Hill.
Yeah. So anyway, Crag Castle would have been the entry. Again, the same as the others. You don't carry any weapons, so it doesn't matter. Because you've been hired by the caravan, the money you have now, this is what you earned.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And it's definitely not even the same coin from where I'm from either. This is like the Dale Lands coin. And it's cool. I had to work hard for that. Which is highly unusual. It's like just to eat.
Yeah. You also got a little something from the woman who took you in, because she was like, hey, I never had a daughter, right? I took pity on you here, right?
Oh man.
Have a bucket for water and a shovel.
Okay, now I need the name of, oh my god. Okay, I need the name of this woman. She was too kind.
Anyway, you get to Arabel.
Okay.
So you would have found it very quickly that it's a very bad idea to ask people about what you're experiencing. It's a big enough city that you can vanish after you have asked those people, but it's not a good idea, right? The way you describe it, basically the people who are magically capable are like, you made a pact with a demon, fuck off. Be glad if we don't report you to the war wizards.
Oh god.
But do roll me an investigation check, please.
Oh man. Okay.
Chris's flashbacks from like Eldref asking about summoning incubi and succubi.
Yes.
Oh, pretty good.
Yes. I'm motivated by having like these really powerful mage people.
Roll me a d4.
Just oh shit. Okay.
This is aligning perfectly, guys. 4 days. So now finally, like 30 minutes before end of the session, basically, this is like about the time that Viera lost track of Cassius. But the thing is, because you guys are looking for the same thing, right? It would be a coincidence, right? But the thing is, like, the community of looking for this tower is not that big. The places where you could find information are not that many. Like, it was a coincidence that you found that body to begin with, because you just happened to be either on the way through Cormyr or like in like in close enough proximity to find out about it. But once you were on the track of the tower, the community or the possibilities of like finding things shrunk down. So this is why you have this thing of like bumping into each other, right? Because you're not just like casually walking around town aimlessly. You are specifically looking for this, which then shrinks down the amount of possibilities you would go to. And this is why you keep bumping into each other. So despite Cassius escaping, Viera would have bumped into now Cassius and Samira. Because they're now together looking for the tower. So let's start there.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing with that? You see the two of them.
I mean, is you basically doing
Viera.
the stalking thing again?
I'm waiting for Chris to tell me.
Okay.
Have I openly heard both of them talking about the tower now?
Yes.
Given the fact that I lost Cassius the last time, presumably this means I have refound him.
Yes. By the sheer amount of like, you would just keep bumping into the same locations.
Okay. In which case, I would probably wait for them both to be talking and facing in the same direction.
Yeah.
And then pop up 5 feet behind them, trailing them. And be like, yeah, I'm interested in the tower too.
Well, you have this elf popping up behind you guys.
There's an instinctive grab for the maul and the rattle when the wire doesn't give, and then just stern face. And who are you?
Cassius, you recognize her from stalking.
Hey, I know you. Nice to finally meet you. So I decided to quit the skulking about, huh?
Well, I'm new too. And she kind of looks around at everything around them. Human cities in general. So I'm learning what I can before I engage. I'm Viera. Nice to meet you. You're looking for the tower from the folktale, presumably.
Nice to meet you too, Viera. My name is Samira, and I'd prefer, well, you weren't following me from what I think so, right? You were following him, correct?
To begin with, yes, I lost him a little while ago, but heard you two talking about the tower again and figured I'd pop up.
Yes, I appreciate you not sneaking up into in the future.
Sure. I'm used to the wilds, not the brick.
So, lots of coincidences today, huh?
Seems like it.
I presume you've heard about the individual who has a way to the tower?
And what did you hear about?
Well, not an awful lot, but they should stand out when we do find them. So, I take it you guys are seeking the tower as well?
You could say so, yes.
Curious? Not many people go after what is essentially a folk story.
Curious as well that you are doing the same.
I have a vested interest in finding it. Unlike most people who discount it as legend, I have reason to believe that it's real.
Oh, why so?
Someone I knew disappeared looking for it.
Well, that's interesting.
So why are you looking for the tower, if you don't mind me asking?
Personal reasons.
Wealth.
Well,
Well, someone's got a direct goal in mind.
I'm a simple guy. I have simple needs.
judging by the weight of his coin purse, I'm going to assume that there's not an awful lot of it left in his person. Well, so what have you guys heard about the tower? Do you have any leads?
Only this person, and that they cycle around the nearby trails and back to Arabel here. Nothing much more.
Oh.
Do you have any leads?
Some, maybe. Not sure if they're true or not yet. I have
Would
a
you
good
care to
idea
share
of-
them?
Perhaps if you give me a little bit more than just personal reasons. Doesn't have to be everything.
Alright, now do we just want to do this while standing out on the streets, or are we just gonna go inside somewhere, have a drink? What about that?
I think that's a good idea.
That sounds like a good idea.
Okay. And I assume this would make our way to the...
Somebody roll me a D100, please, in chat.
I'll do it.
Oh, fast.
Oh,
I like these dice, what can I say?
One roll is enough. Yeah, so I gave it a 30% chance that this is the place where basically a certain someone else has heard about the legend of the tower for the first time.
Hell yeah!
So the dice roller really likes you today, right? In that it's like this dice roll, like, yeah, we must put them together. So Arrow, Stheno is sitting there when these people come in, right? She just heard about the legend, right?
Okay.
So you know enough that it's a tower that appears on regular basis in like every few decades. Nobody knows exactly where it is. Nobody has ever come back from finding it. But legend goes like, if you do manage to find it, and if you pass its trials, it will take it to a different world where it will, fulfill your deepest wish, desire, or need. So like, yeah, that's what you heard so far, right? And again, you heard enough to know it's a thing, and you heard also enough that in that conversation that like there's a guy who has a map, supposedly he's looking for people, because by now you are aware enough of what's happening, like, dream wise, that you know that you will never make it home.
All right.
You're like rapidly running. If Samira is a time bomb, you're like any day. You're like literally every day you are alive is like, holy shit, I made it, right?
Okay.
You know there's no fucking way you will ever make it home alive. And you might, like, if you would have enough time, you might find somebody maybe in Cormyr among the wizards, clergy and stuff that might be able to help you. But from the initial reaction you got, it might be a really bad idea to ask, right? And you don't know, you're like, your father had all the contacts. You were just like the pretty thing on his arm. Because that's the
Right.
problem. Like when you are a spoiled noble's merchant's daughter, you learn about trade. You don't like when you're following somebody else. You don't necessarily pay attention on how to do certain things, right?
Right.
It's like, you know how when somebody like leads you to a place in a city and you actually don't pay attention which way you're going because the person is leading you, kind of like that, right? So like your father had all the contacts, and if your father were here, he could probably find you contacts and solve this, unless he's dead and you killed him.
Okay.
So yeah, so this is your state the moment these three are coming out for the door. The three of you. Actually, you know what? It's 9 o'clock. We're gonna pick this up next session for the proper session 1. We're gonna leave it on a cliffhanger. But
Dun,
Oh no!
dun, dun.
all 4 of you are now in the same space, right? Like I said, Arrow, think about like this is your desperation status, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
If
your
only the
driver.
same physical space, not necessarily mental space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like out of character, I'm joking around a little bit, but in character, it's definitely like her eyes are kind of wide and she's attempting to be subtle, like looking around, trying to listen in on things, but she's clearly scoping the place for somebody. Like it's she looks unsettled and kind of desperate. Like it's very clear.
Yeah, they're not paying attention to you yet, right?
Yeah.
Because you're
Just to give
another
an
face in the crowd. Yeah.
We'll be paying attention next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where we break it off. So you have a week to like look into the places I mentioned, to like solidify further, like especially you, Arrow, with like Soltog, like your capital, like where not the capital, the city where you're from.
So
Soltog, yeah. You should really look into that. Because it will come up
I've
eventually.
been looking into it a little bit. Selgaunt is awesome because it has the best cheese in the world.
Yes.
During the multiverse.
Like, yeah.
So,
Shh.
Okay.
Not now. We have time to talk about this.
Okay.
You guys, Lena, I know that you had a headache earlier, so you don't have to stick around, but like I would like for people if you can give me like 5-10 more minutes in the office. Just to like have a nice little wrap up before we like say goodnight.
Yeah, voice channel down below.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
fancy.
like hop over in the office. I will join you in a second.
All right. See you there.
See you later.
See you in a moment.
Oop.
So guys, dear stream, sorry for not acknowledging you. I tend to prefer to focus on my players. Unfortunately, I'm not like Delric, aka Scott. I cannot keep track of chat that good and the stuff. And there was a lot of lore that we had to go through. So thank you for watching. I hope that it was interesting for you all to find out more about the 1374 DR lore of the Forgotten Realms, which is pre-4th edition, 3 and 3.5 edition, even before, like some of the stuff I mentioned today was even before Pathfinder was a thing, right? Tune in next time for session 1, where we actually do things properly, kick it off properly. Now they're all together. Will they find the tower? We don't know. Who is the mysterious guy offering the map? We don't know. We're gonna find out next time. So, next Sunday, 4 p.m. UTC or UK time. I hope you had fun. Stick around. I'm gonna probably drop a raid. Well, actually, let me check if anyone is even around to a raid to be dropped. Yeah, there is. Chasing Tales. I'm gonna drop a raid for Chasing Tales, so stick around for that. Thank you for listening. Till next time, I'll be back on Tuesday with campaign building. So see you on Tuesday at 11 a.m. UTC. So see you on Tuesday. Love you all. Thank you for sticking around. And bye!